Punk Podcast, Episode 5. And I am your host, Tyler. We got Jake over to my right, and we got Tim over to my left. Yeah, how's it going, guys?
It's pretty good for the most part. I'll do a little local food review that I think, in case anyone wants to visit Rochester or is new to the area, it might be helpful. I ordered through Grubhub because I didn't want to stand up and because I'm a moron who hemorrhages money constantly. I wanted a hero, and I ordered from Gine's, the diner on Park Ave. I got a hero and some French fries. French fries, great. I needed French fries because I wanted to put them on the sandwich, you know. Just I heard that's the Greek way to do it. And French fries are great. Hero, not so good. Do not recommend. I would say I am spoiled by Cedar Mediterranean Restaurant on Monroe Avenue. I'll say it on the record now. That is my favorite food in Rochester. Part of the reason I didn't go there is because they don't have French fries. I heard they used to have great ones, but I should have just done that because it would have been way less money. And yes, Cedar, thoroughly endorsed by yours truly. Other than being somewhat disappointed in my sandwich, I would say fairly disappointed. I'm doing pretty well. A little tired, but that's okay. I'll perk up, as we're chatting.
And, I'm doing the same. I'm doing as good as I can,
Yeah, we're making do. I would say that Cedar could get a recommendation from all of us. I think we all would agree, great restaurant.
Yeah, definitely.
So a friend of mine, I guess I'll give her a shout out. Brittany Andrews had a really funny idea because the folks at Cedar, they're all Lebanese guys, and her idea was and they have the shawarma, and the hero is on like a spinning spit, and it looks great. And that's the proper way to make it. You can't just fucking put chicken on a grill and put seasoning on it and call it a shawarma. Her idea was it's like the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, but it's like glossy photos of the spinning meats, but more importantly, it features the shoulder hair of the men that are working there. It's nice shoulder shots.
And the older woman who works there, too. Don't forget her.
If we ever get video, I can show off my shoulder hair because I could give any of them a run for their money, I'm certain.
That's a place where I don't have hair whatsoever.
It's Cedar? You don't have hair at Cedar?
Well, this is episode 5, guys. First, apology for episode 4, I guess.
Not because it was bad, and certainly we are not apologizing for Jared's presence, which sounded like we were there. But there was an echo on it in the first half, only in the first half.
And, that's something we just won't do. We got to live and let die, Sometimes you just fuck up. So
the only other thing I would add with regards to that episode that we should have touched on more, I was trying to prod him to talk about it, and he didn't do it. Jared is a jazz musician. He has music online. When there is live performances happening, he does live jazz performances in Buffalo. That was something I wish we explored more, sort of his path from thrash metal to punk to jazz music. But check his stuff out. He's really good. He has a composition called The Gaze. That's Gaze. That is on YouTube that he put together remotely during quarantine, I believe. So recommend Jared Tinkham, great musician, great guy. So other than the little echo in the first half, I was just happy with that episode, and I hope our listeners were as well.
So this is going to be a little bit of a different, not really a different episode, because obviously at this point I don't think we've established that we have a specific thing we're talking about each week. Which I think is kind of like how we're going to do it. We're going to do it like the Axe to Grind kind of style or like last podcast on the left style, where every episode may be a little bit different. But we're all going to try and convey into like a general idea of punk and subculture. And today we're going to really just chit-chat, kind of like the first couple episodes. Because I wanted to talk about various things that was on our mind, Also, have you, the audience, kind of get to know us a little bit more as your hosts and as someone you'll be listening to. It's probably, if you don't know us already, this would be a good introductory to us, a little bit more deeper than what we already know, other than us just kind of liking Metallica, I guess, especially Saint
And for our listeners who know us personally already, this will still be informative for you because you will be getting the version of us that we would have presented to you anyway if we had half as much control over how we present ourselves as we would like to.
So, just, I guess what we should maybe I wanted to do a little bit of an introduction first. Like I said, try and get to know us. We're setting the record straight today, folks. Just have like a gavel sound, like a psh.
I would
Maybe.
need several gavels to really set my story straight, but I'll give you something when the time comes.
And this, I think, will tie to like some of the questions that the
Right.
things we're gonna be discussing later. I have a couple things written down, but just so I'm Tyler, and pretty much I would say like my history, specifically within Rochester, is inextricably, I don't know if I'm using that word right, tied to me and Tim have a very similar history because we've literally grown up together, kind of, and
Known each other for years, almost 20 years at this point,
Wow.
actually, which is weird to think about.
yes, it is weird to think about that. And we've also played in like almost every single band we've been in together.
For the most
part.
part, I think, yeah.
Like started probably in
NT.
NT Negative Troach, 2011, I think 2010,
Like late 2010, I think, is when we...
and we kind of started going to shows. You were going to shows a little before me, like metal shows and stuff like that.
For the first show I went to ever was 2007 in February. It was Immolation, Belphegor, Rotting Christ, and a Versifera at the Penny Arcade, and I was 15.
When did you see Fuck the Facts? Didn't Fuck the Facts play
That was a year later.
a year later
yeah.
with Immolation still?
No, that was just Fuck the Facts and that band Psyopus. And
Psyopus. Okay.
some other, I don't know.
That's a crazy seeing Immolation as like your first show,
Oh,
and like Rotting Christ too.
believe me, my ears were bleeding by the end of the show. It was, never heard anything that loud in my life
Oh man. And
at that point.
have you ever listened to the kind of a weird tangent? Have you ever listened to the Rotting Christ stuff when they were like a grindcore band?
No, but I've heard it's pretty, like, similar, pretty adjacent to, like, Napalm Death, I guess, or
Yeah.
something.
It's pretty. I mean, it wasn't bad. It's not bad. It's just like, oh, it's more like a, wow, isn't that weird? Like,
I actually thought that they were the worst band on the show.
oh, I mean, 2007. I can fucking believe that.
I'm not really into Greek black metal like that anyway, but
Yeah. Have you? I know we're all fans of black metal. Have you ever listened to like Greek black metal, Jake?
I've heard little bits and pieces on the internet, but I wouldn't say I'm from. I couldn't even name you a band necessarily.
I guess like Rotting Christ. What's that other one?
Verithrone,
Verathon.
something like that.
They're
Verizon.
Verizon.
The Verizon store. in
Verizon
Greece.
Fun Effects.
Greece, New York, do we have the Verizon
Or Horizon, yes.
and Horizon Fun Effects? I think that was on Dewey. Yeah,
No, that's Horizon Fun Effects.
yeah. I said
Not
that.
Verizon.
Verizon Fun Effects.
I mean, it'd be appropriate because nowadays these kids are just on their phones all the time to have
Yeah.
fun.
They're having some fun effects, all right.
Probably is what it is, man, in this day and age.
Well,
But anyway,
my first show was, I believe, in, let me think, that must have been in 2008. Like, late 2008, I believe it was like Daylight Dies and Swallow the Sun. They were like gothic kind of doom, like death doom bands. Melodic, a little melodic too. They're pretty good. It's one of those things where it's like looking back at it now, I can still listen to those bands and they're pretty good. I think Daylight Dies is, I literally haven't listened to them in like years, but that was the first show I went to. So we've been going to shows and playing in bands pretty much since for the last like almost decade. Never really taken any time off. We started with our first band, Negative Troach, which was just like a punk band with some of our friends. That evolved into Leaking Head, essentially, which we reformed
just this year.
just this year, but pretty much because of you, Jake.
Is it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember this now because Leaking Head, I'll give you my recollection of Leaking Head. That would have been in like 2011, right? 2010, 2011.
2011, 2012.
It was like
Okay, so
early.
that's way
it was like
later
mid
than-
2011.
So that came way later. You guys had bands before that, right?
Yeah, I mean, Negative
Kind of.
Troach.
That was it? Okay, so
I
Human,
think that was it,
human
yeah.
Dissension and all that was after that. then.
Yes.
Oh, that was way
much
after.
after.
Okay, my timeline's fucked up here. So
It's all good.
I saw Leaking Head play. That's with our friend Cougar on vocals in 2011. The first show I saw them at was at an old DIY venue called the Pussy Barrel, and that show was great. I remember being really excited about the band at that point. Cougar was a great front man. I think my band Death Camp played as well.
Yes, because I remember asking Noah to use his gear.
Yeah.
And he was like mad about it.
That sounds right. Yeah.
That sounds right. Which, to be fair, I understand completely. As someone who has had to borrow and let people borrow my gear, I understand.
We all have, yeah.
It's just something you do. And if honestly, here's setting the record straight. If you don't let someone borrow your gear, like I think you're kind of an asshole to an extent. Like, let's be honest. No one really gives a shit. Not to you, Tim. Drums, I think, are completely different. But a fucking guitar cab, who gives a shit?
A head is a little different.
Do you
Head
remember?
is way different.
It also depends who's borrowing it. Like, if they are a clear and present dumbass, then, like,
Do you remember?
why would I want to let them use my shit and probably break it?
You know what? I take it back. I take it back. You know, the record has not been set straight. So setting the record, actual record straight. If someone is nice and they ask you to borrow their gear and they are polite and you think that they're okay, just let them use it. Don't fucking gripe and moan.
You know what else helps too? Not asking the person you want to borrow from as soon as they're done playing to borrow it.
Oh,
'Cause
that
there's-
absolutely.
There is nothing worse than that. I fucking hate that.
When
that
shows
happens.
happen again and you're there and you know you don't have gear, first of all, if you know that you're not going to have fucking gear, ask someone
say something at the
days
beginning.
before.
Yeah.
You have so much time, and that would make my life so much easier because knowing this, oh, they're going to use my guitar cab? Well, that cuts out 2 minutes of fucking switch time. Oh, it makes everyone's lives easier. Hell yeah. I like a show that goes smoothly.
Oh, I mean, most of the shows, I feel like this was more of a problem, and we're way on a tangent now, but this was more of a problem back then when we were younger because everyone was dumber back then, and everyone wanted to beef more.
Like nobody had gear either.
And no one had any fucking gear. Now it's like we all have it, but we also all want everything to be backline just for the sake of having the show be over faster because we don't want to be there. So I think the letting people borrow gear is less of a big deal now. But anyway, so Leaking Head, that first show was great. I saw you guys once or twice after that, and it was not great.
We played 4 shows. The
Okay.
first show was in Olean,
which was a complete shit show.
which was, man.
Was it the one Noah was at
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
with Root Hogs?
No, that was in Corning.
Oh, it's a different
Corning,
thing.
New York
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Beastman and the Root Hogs.
That's
That was
what
a
I'm
shit
thinking
show.
of. Okay.
too.
That was with Negative Troach, Waves Crashing Piano Chords. Who else played?
Is it Olean now?
Han and the
Olean.
Solos.
Han and the Solos.
Oh, yeah, those guys are great. That
And
was
I
a great
think that
band.
was it.
Maybe another band or two.
Leaking Head.
Yeah.
Han and the Solos was one of my favorite live bands from that era. I've never listened to
Yeah.
their recording, which I probably should have, but I'm not going to now, probably. But no, now I'm curious, so maybe I will go back to it. But
It might even be up on YouTube, actually.
that's
that
possible,
demo.
yeah. But yeah, so you're right. Now that you mention it, yeah, Leaking Head came back about a year ago just because I had some hardcore songs I had been sitting on for years. I didn't know what to do with them. And, yeah, if I recall correctly, I was just hanging out with you guys, and I wanted to record them for this upcoming Rotcore compilation, Rotcore Volume 3, coming soon. Give a little plug there. My plan at the time was, this will just be like a funny studio project, because Leaking Head was like, not everyone in Rochester, the fucking 20 people we know from the punk scene would remember that name.
Well,
And
that's
they'd be-
like everyone.
yeah,
Those
yeah.
20 people.
Yeah, and so they'd be like, oh man, Leaking Head's back, like what the fuck? And then it's just like 2 hardcore songs in a comp, and that's it, one and done. But then we started jamming, and it ended up being really good. So this is my really currently like my main band, or at least like, yeah. So that's the story of Leaking Head coming back, which I'm sure all our listeners are super curious about. They really want to know that.
We have mentioned Leaking Out a couple times, so that's, I think, a good
Yeah,
kind
we
of,
should
like,
clarify
lesson.
what it is. It's a band that the
that
three of
is-
us are in with Cougar and Kevin Clark.
AKA Chainsaw.
Chainsaw. I almost called him that, and I didn't, but then Tim decided, fuck it, call him this nickname that he hates.
No, he likes it.
He likes it.
So that is one of our current projects. That is going on at the time. The other project that me and Tim have been in for the last 4 years is a band called Hallucination Realized, where I currently am playing guitar and doing vocals. He is drumming, and then our buddy Tommy Wall from
Virginia.
is playing bass. Yes, he plays in that band Undeath currently as well, who are also based in Rochester. So that works out perfectly. Hopefully we're up. It's crazy because all our bands are kind of wrapping up like releases like now. You know, like Holy Water, another band that me and Tim play in, where I play bass and Tim does vocals, finished tracks for a split. We kind of have the Leaking Head demo done. Hallucination Realized has 6 or 7, is going to have like 7 or so songs for a split with another band from Virginia.
I'm going to have the Moir demo out soon. That's my band that I do vocals for, and on the demo I played guitar as well. It's already out on the internet. The physical release is going to be within the next
Are you
couple
doing
months.
just vocals now?
That's the plan, yeah. We need a rhythm section if anyone's listening and is interested. Right now we have Alex Duffy, who started the band with, or didn't originally start the band with me, but joined pretty early on. And another dude, Eric Perrine, also playing guitar. Great, Eric's killing it. He's like, my guitar parts are not hard, like the ones I had written already, but I would be picky about who could get the style right, and he happened to really nail it.
You have a very particular guitar playing sensibility.
Thank you. People have told me, I remember years ago, our friend Jake Spezio told me, like, yeah, I could pick your guitar out of a lineup, and that's one of my favorite things probably that anyone's ever said to me. That was huge.
Yeah.
That is true. You really do have a very distinct style.
Thank you. Yeah, not that you said it was good, but
Yeah.
I'm going to assume
it is
that's
good.
what
I
it means.
like the stuff.
No, I
you
mean, I
play
feel
guitar
like
for the most part.
that's my way of saying it's good. Like, you stand out. You know?
That's hard.
That's
to,
all that
that's
counts
harder.
nowadays, you know. Novelty, in terms of the cultural marketplace, novelty is really the only commodity that's scarce at this point, so that means it's good, yeah.
And then I'm thinking from like after Leaking Head, what was like after Leaking Head?
That was, unfortunately for us, Controlled by Fear.
Yeah, which was 3 of us out of Leaking Head, not including Coog, playing grindcore stuff, which then became Human Dissension, same lineup, which then became Hallucination Realized, same lineup, and here we are now.
I'm not sure that I ever saw Controlled by Fear or Human Dissension.
Really?
You might have seen Human Dissension like once.
The one I remember seeing that I liked a lot was your other band, American Terrorist, which was
Yes.
you two guys, Kevin Chainsaw from Leaking Head and Corey Trash on vocals. That was a sweet band.
Yeah.
It was fun, yeah.
I always liked seeing that band. That
We
was
have
good shit.
a decent amount of. I think the thing that the blemish on us is that we just don't. We weren't able to get like a lot of recordings out or like do a lot with like some of the projects. The quality is pretty bad.
It's probably the biggest problem, if I were to just guess, is the recording quality, etc.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which-
definitely.
The new Hallucination Realized stuff is finally, I think, up to snuff, up to caliber, which the songs we're writing and like how we are like songwriting and talent wise, especially with Tommy on bass now, because he like went to school for playing bass. So I'm like really, really excited for that to finally like at the ripe age of 28 hear something like, oh, this is like what it should sound like. Shit. Fuck. But what about you? Let's go just to do a little detour. Go to you, Jake. Let's like a little bit of your history, I guess, in terms of like playing music and stuff like
the
that.
punk rock origin story. Yeah. Okay. So I started listening to punk I was in like 7th grade. So that would have been like what, 04. I got into like the Sex Pistols and the Clash and that kind of stuff. The Descendants. In 8th grade, I started kind of dipping my toes into hardcore a little bit. Bad Brains, that kind of shit.
When was your first show?
I was about to get to that.
sorry.
Well, the first like show, I guess, of any kind that I went to was I saw the English Beat at Water Street Music Hall when I was in 8th grade. That's an old second wave ska band from England, ska/new wave. Not too long after that, I attended, because of course, being the person that I was, I wanted to get in on the punk scene in Rochester. So I went on the internet, looked up Rochester Punk, found a website. I think it was rochesterpunk.net, and there was bands mentioned, a message board, etc. So I found out about Heavy Metal Steve's birthday show at the Bug Jar. Again, this would have been like 04, 05, I believe. And the lineup was I'm sure there's some I'm going to forget, but the bands I remember, I went because I heard UV Rays were playing, and I listened to some of their stuff, and I was like, oh, this is cool. This is rock and roll. I like this. That was more my vibe back then, was rock and roll type stuff, which was not what Rochester was about, really. UV Rays were an outlier in that regard. And Destructs played, old, like, sort of fast, thrashy, hardcore band. Finisher played, which was like an Iron Maiden ripoff band that was great.
I knew Finisher played. Like, I wasn't at that show because I didn't know what that shit was whatsoever.
Yeah.
But knowing from like that show, I know that Finisher played. Who else played?
Those are the only ones I can remember. Now that you mentioned it, I would like to look it up and see what else was there. I remember my mom had to go to the show with me, obviously, because, of course. I had like two of my friends there who were like tangentially into punk. Vinny might have been there. I can't remember. But I remember seeing people circle pit. I didn't know what that was, and circle pits back then were insane. I'd never seen anything like it before in my life. Didn't really care for Destructs. Loved Finisher because I listened to Iron Maiden. When UV Rays finally started playing, they were up last for the night, and I saw like one song, and then my mom made me leave, both because it was late and because they were fucking hammered, like falling off the stage drunk, and I guess she didn't want me to see that. I don't know. Not long after that, I went. This might have been ninth grade by this point, but another big show I remember vividly was some show at the AV Space. This was an old like DIY venue in Rochester, and I'm mentioning this one because the big band I remember from that show was a wild hardcore band called Bad Taste that sounded like SOA. And I later ended up being in that band. So, yeah, I guess I'll get to that. In ninth grade, or like between 8th and ninth grade, prior to that, I wanted to be in a band since forever. I remember listening to Gorillaz when I was like a little kid and being like, I have to be in a fucking band. I got to be in a fucking band.
Yeah.
And then I got into punk and stuff. And it was
Gorillaz?
That was in like 3rd or 4th grade. Yeah, that was like my first favorite band.
I think that was the first CD, Demon Days.
That's the second one.
That was the first CD I ever
that you bought. That's their second album, though.
Great, weird.
Yeah, they're good. Actually, their stuff holds up.
Yeah, their stuff's really good.
But after I got into punk, that like sealed the deal. I got to be in a band. Like my parents had bought me a guitar before that, and I barely used it. Once I got into punk, I was like, I got to start fucking using it because I got to start a band. So I found the most obnoxious and widely detested kid at my school and determined that he needed to be the lead singer in my band, because I heard that was roughly how Johnny Rotten came to be the frontman of the Sex Pistols. That person happened to be my friend Vinny Sauer, who I'm friends with to this day. We fucked around and made like some really shitty music with his brother who had a laptop. But eventually, when I was 15 in ninth grade, we actually got a rhythm section. It was me and him, and then Jake Spezio, who I mentioned earlier, who I've known like since I was born. He was a family friend of mine. And this kid, Paulo Marino, who Vinny went to school with, who wasn't into punk. He listened to like System of a Down and shit, but he was a great drummer. So we had a full band lineup, and we started a band called Brain Car that started playing when I was like, this would have been what, like 06 probably? Yeah. 2006.
I have no idea.
I was in ninth grade when Brain Car started. We played a couple shows. We didn't know how to tune an instrument, or I didn't at least. Jake, and the rhythm section was always super competent. I was not. Vinny would like not really sing songs. He would kind of roll around and half sing them and say like slurs occasionally and go out and fuck with the crowd. Most people fucking hated it. There were probably, you could count on one hand the people who saw the first couple Brain Car shows and thought it was good. Two of them happened to be Cam Dean and Brett Kucharski of the group Bad Taste, who was, I like idolized that band at that point. That was the Rochester band that like grabbed me, because they played like simple, brutal hardcore. Brett was fucking wild. He'd be like spitting on people, doing the whole Darby Crash bit, but he wasn't on drugs or drunk. Really confrontational. I was like, yeah, this is the band. They're the shit, right? And not long, and so he was like an early Brain Car supporter, and he initially, I was asked, him and some other people I had met through the punk scene had a band called Insubordinates that was around for a while. They asked me to audition to play guitar in that band, and I wasn't good enough at playing adolescent songs, so I didn't get that gig. But when the guitarist from Bad Taste, Zach Keck, left to go to college, I was immediately recruited to play in that band. So I think my first show with them was when I was in 10th grade. That would have been 07. So the new Bad Taste lineup became me on guitar, Brett on vocals, Cam Dean on drums, and then Anna Emily Monaco, who was an OG Bad Taste person, she left the band, and Richie DeJohn took over on bass duties. So those were like my first 2 high school bands.
That's, I gotta say, to kind of like interject here.
Go ahead.
That's, to me, as someone who's been listening to music for a long time, but like only got into punk and stuff like that, and going to like punk shows when like we went to like our first, like, maybe, I don't know if you did something before, but you and I and some other friends, we went to the first Beastman show. That was in like 2009. McGruder played, I think. They were supposed to play.
So it was, you were a little older then.
Yeah.
So I was like, we were like 12th grade. We were like seniors, maybe.
That was probably that sounds about right.
See, by the time I was in 12th grade, I'd been going to punk shows all the time, playing shows for years. Now, that kind of makes me sound cool, so I would be remiss to mention my what got me away from the punk scene for a little while. When I was still in 8th grade, I believe, I had found that message board on rochesterpunk.net.
Yeah.
And I, of course, started trolling people and acting like a shithead, pissing people off. And back then, a lot of shows would happen at parks. They didn't happen at real venues. And there was a punk show I wanted to go to, and my dad decided it would be prudent to call the parks department and ask them about it to make sure I would be safe there. So the show almost got shut down because of my family, and then promptly I was flamed to shit on the internet. People fucking hated me. It was humiliating. It happened because I'm a huge pussy, and I was a huge pussy about it. So I for a period of time was like, I can't go to shows. But sometime between 8th and 9th grade, I was like, no, fuck it. Like, I have to go. I don't know. Some of these guys are okay with me. Like, I'm just going to go for it. So I had another band, too, with some guys from School of the Arts called Love Pork that started as almost like a joke band / trying to sound like Flipper. Over the years, we became a real band that I would say was quite good. And then during my second half of high school, around the time you guys started coming around, I started a band that all the bands I mentioned previously, I was playing guitar. I became frontman for a sort of New York hardcore inspired group called Death Camp later on in high school.
Now, question, is that name based off of the Chromax song Death Camps?
I didn't come up with it. This is interesting because that's what I remember it being from, because Noah was vegetarian at the time, and I was too.
Isn't Noah still vegetarian?
Yes, he is. So there's different stories on it, though, because that's how I remember it. Noah, I think, has some recollection of, like, picking names out of a hat or something. I asked John Soto, our drummer, about it. He said he came up with the name because of the FEMA camps that Obama was going to build. And he is 100% certain that that's where the name came from. So there's some contention about this.
That's so funny.
That was the group that Jared played in. He wasn't. We played a couple shows without him, and then he joined. I had one more band, Burger Violence. It wasn't great, but some people liked it. We played shows. That was like a pretty standard hardcore band. We were on technically the second, but in a lot of people's minds, the first rockcore comp on Brett's Real Time Records. The Burger Violence tracks on there are actually great, because we had kicked out the guitar player and I played guitar and bass, and it was all music I had written, and it was pretty good. It's like the predecessor to what Leaking Head is doing now, honestly, the music, the 2 tracks you did for that. That comp was a big moment for me because I played on half the tracks on it. So I'm pretty proud of that.
I might, if I can figure it out, I might be able to rip that entire comp, and I might put it on YouTube. If I ever do, I'll try and link the episode.
It's on the Real Time Bandcamp, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but, I bet Brett has it where it's like, you can only listen to it 3 times, and then, like, you have to pay for it.
I bet he doesn't.
Dude, that's what the default is on Bandcamp.
I think, Bandcamp just does that. I don't think,
You can change it. I change all of our stuff, I think, to, like, 10 or 15 times. Because then it's like, if you're listening to something, like, 10 times,
on the Bandcamp,
just buy it.
Yeah.
I had to do that recently with that Cartwheel band, because I was like, I need to listen to this more. Which that is an excellent band, probably one of my favorite releases of the year. It's if you like My Bloody Valentine, like the 80s stuff, and if you like that, this is like perfect. It's like the most perfect My Bloody Valentine worship, but in and of itself not trying to pretend to be it. I guess. What were we talking about?
I was gonna sort of go forward and conclude my sort of playing in punk bands history. So yeah, as you pointed out, I started playing in bands when I was I guess pretty fucking young.
Yeah.
Unlike you guys, I did stop eventually though for a while, for too long, because my group Love Pork kind of stopped playing because we had multiple members leave town for personal reasons. Death Camp became kind of sporadic because Jared moved to Buffalo. Sorry. I'm trying to think of which things to mention. So that became kind of sporadic because of him, and there was also, it was on and off before that because our original bass player JP went to college, but then eventually we got Rory to play. Anyway, Love Pork stopped playing. Braincar broke up first. That was like 2011 after we had done our second tour with Bad Taste.
I remember the infamous last show in Rochester where Vinny wasn't wearing any pants.
Yeah, I mean, he did that a lot, to be fair, Vinny getting naked. And yeah, that show was a disaster for me. I drank too much, and certain bandmates of mine were huge assholes about it, even though everyone else in my band also played bad. So it's not my fault that it sounded bad. So fuck you. But
setting the record straight, everybody.
Like I said, I am not setting the record straight, because if I set the record straight on this podcast, it will be thoroughly unreleasable and probably unlistenable too.
Setting the record straight on some things.
I would say we're getting
on almost nothing.
We're getting facts that are agreed upon out there.
Yeah.
We have to like get more of an audience before we do the Jake Razor Talks Shit episode, which will have to be a fucking trilogy at bare minimum.
To go back to the that last Braincar show, I urge everybody to go on Facebook. Go on to Al Brundage's page and look the show up. He's probably got photos still up.
Oh, if you want to see photos of all this shit, yeah, go to Al Brundage's Facebook. It's all up there, all this shit.
And
all this old stuff, like 8-9 years we're talking.
For those who don't know, Al Brundage is a man who took a punk. He's a true punk. True punk man who took pictures and I believe maybe videos of to some degree of punk bands and stuff like that.
Death
Not
Camp.
just punk
I
bands,
remember he took Death Camp videos.
He loved Death Camp. We were his favorite. He loved the Cockspire cover, Rochester Belongs to Me, that he thought we wrote. He wanted to use it for like Critical Mass, his like cyclist biking thing.
I just remember him getting schoolboyed.
Yeah.
And it was really funny.
But yeah, so then Bad Taste broke up in 2013. Kind of broke up at our peak. We had a period there where I would say we were.
Wait, Bad Taste broke up in 2013?
Yeah, 2013 or 2014.
Damn. Saying that makes my head like the time is fucking convoluted, or it just seems like not that long ago.
Time is a flat circle is what it is.
Yeah.
But we had like really tightened up our sound after a few years of sounding a little bit fucked, I would say. If you want to hear what that sounds like, there's a split single with Bad Taste and Braincar that I do highly recommend. It's great. I'm very proud of it. Braincar Rock and Roll Baloney record's also great. And if you have Spotify, the first Bad Taste 7-inch is on there. I Was a Teenage Jack the Ripper. I'm very proud of that record, and people kind of lost sight of it. People don't know about it. So Bad Taste recorded an LP, which someday, possibly over my literal dead body, will be released. And that is great, but then for personal reasons, one of the band members sort of lost interest and was like, hey, we should break up. And I for whatever reason, we went along with it, and we played our last show. So we broke up in 2013. Death Camp kept playing sporadically. Death Camp is still technically active. But and then I started a new band called Live Bait with Brett from Bad Taste, Justin Pellini, and Mike Culp, who I later did Malachor with. And that was a hardcore band that lasted like exactly a year. It lasted from like 2015 through 2016. We have a demo that Brett put out that is, I'm again very proud of that release. After that, I didn't play fucking music for a couple of years, and I was having a really bad time. I had a job I didn't really care for where I didn't have a regular work schedule, and I had to travel out of town for work. I was like on the internet all day doing things that were not great. I was taking fucking kratom all the time, gained a ton of weight. I stopped working out, which was a fucking disaster. Then maybe 2 years ago, I got a different job where I stayed in Rochester, started getting my mental health and physical health in order, started therapy, and eventually started a band, started the sort of initial version of Moir, the band that I discussed earlier. I started playing in Malachor, which I'm not anymore, but that was a black metal band that I started playing in. When the fuck was that? That was like a year ago, though.
That was like, I think it was around last November.
Before that. It would have been like October. And then just recently I started doing Leaking Head. So that really, I wouldn't say that's fully or properly my like punk history, but in terms of my history in bands in Rochester, that would be a good, again, I hope that this is meaningful to someone. Like, I feel like the stuff that would be more interesting in terms of my origin story would be more personal shit, but I don't know if we have time or space to do that.
It's not that we have time or space. I think we should just kind of cover like some small ground here. I mean,
basically, if you really want the story, go listen to those bands I mentioned, and maybe it'll paint a picture for you. There's also, I'm going to shout out my releases because if I recall correctly, you invited me to do that.
We'll do the shout-outs later because I have some stuff we can shout out later. Now that we can actually, like, shout out shit. Yeah, so essentially, like, we've been playing in bands. Like, me and Tim have been playing in bands probably for 10 years without pretty much stopping. Maybe there was, like, a half a year every now and again where we kind of didn't do anything, you know?
You guys are the most, like, relentlessly dedicated, like, punk musicians in Rochester, probably.
Can you just mention some other bands that you haven't mentioned?
Go for it.
Sure. Other bands that I was in, me and Tyler, actually, it was me, Tyler, Connor, and Corey O'Rourke.
Oh, yeah.
Beings,
that was cool.
That was like
that
was a good, like, kind of hardcore, crusty band, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. That was probably like 5 years ago. I also did like a crusty, I mean, I guess you could almost say even street punky type band called Aristocunts with Corey Trash and Mark, a.k.a. Toki. And that one, we probably did that for like a year.
Don't forget Sex Cauldron, which was with Bob. And like what you Bob and
Graham
at first. And then I joined on guitar, and then Matt from Water Torture played bass.
Never saw this.
I believe we played one show. We played 2 shows as Sex Cauldron, and then one of them had Matt on bass, and we never recorded anything.
That didn't last very long,
Didn't last
circumstances,
long.
I think, a lot of stuff was, things were going on in people's lives, and just it's hard to meet up.
We didn't have a practice space at the time.
Oh yeah, we would practice at the old North Street house, which was
where I was living
not
at the
ideal.
time. It kind of sucked.
So I guess what I was getting at is we just effectively spat out a bunch of data that wouldn't be very meaningful to anyone who wasn't there. So I'm thinking maybe we should put this in context and make it a story. We should tell them what this means and how it relates to the topic for today, Tyler. So,
like I said, we're going to talk about we have a couple things that I have where we can discuss. And this is actually a perfect segue. So pretty much like I wanted to introduce ourselves to kind of like give us an idea, give you, the listener, an idea of like we call ourselves, the podcast is called The Kings of Punk. And while that may be a grandiose claim, we aren't idiots, and we take this shit very seriously. I've been like,
we are
embroiled in this for like years.
I just
obviously there's people who've been doing it for longer, but we're pretty young still. And I think like most podcasts that I listen to about punk music is like, I'm 45 and I was doing this. I'm not 45. We aren't 45, and it's most people our age don't do podcasts. So I think we're giving you a different perspective.
I just want to say that was a perfect segue, and that's why I did it.
So, you gotta let me drive the segue, man. You gotta let me just drive the segue. And so you interrupt the segue to tell me that's a good
About
segue?
a good segue.
So the
I heard
segue
those
is
scooters were fucking dangerous, man. People were getting hurt.
the
Dude,
bird scooters.
The
Have you ever used
inventor
those?
drove himself off a cliff on one of those bitches.
Wait, who?
The guy who invented the Segway, he fell off a fucking cliff on one.
Really?
Yeah, and he died.
Nice job, fucking idiot. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was our general thoughts on the Rochester punk scene as a whole before COVID happened and then currently. And when I say before COVID happened, I meant like it's January 1st, 2020. What the fuck is going on with Rochester punk? And then now that it's pretty much almost January 1st, 2021, what the fuck is going on with Rochester punk now? Because a thing that I think a lot of people probably don't know a lot about Rochester, and if they do, they may know from bands of like 5, 10 years, 10, 15 years ago. But like I think the last 8 or so years, it's been pretty rocky, if I'm going to be brutally honest.
Maybe not that long. I'd say maybe like at least the last 5 years.
5 or so years. Okay.
Well, it's been non-existent is what it has been.
Pretty
like,
much, yeah.
Which I can elaborate that in a second if you can finish your thought. The only other thing I would note is you could include February, too. This is super nitpicky, but I remember exactly when the COVID lockdown started, when it went crazy. It was like mid-March.
We played the last HR show, Hallucination Realized show, was March 1st or March 2nd?
Or something like that. It was like, the very beginning of March.
It was with Sanguisugabog, shout out.
And, Disfathom.
Disfathom.
Which is a sick band, too, by the way.
Shout out Disfathom. Calum plays another band called Fed Ash that is fucking from Syracuse. They're based in Syracuse. They're fucking awesome. That was the last show that we played, and we weren't even supposed to play that. Undeath, had van troubles in Detroit and, couldn't make it back. So they're like, yo, you want to play? And we're like, sure, why not?
And it was a sick show. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, I'm really fucking glad we did it. So, what do you guys think? What were your thoughts, earlier this year, or not even necessarily earlier this year, 2019, early 2020, what were your thoughts about, how it was kind of going at the time? Because I think things were, looking okay. You know, there wasn't anything, it wasn't it could have been worse.
I mean, I'll say from just maybe, this is a more personal perspective. Going into 2020, I mean, I think shit was looking pretty good for us. With HR, I mean, we were supposed to play in fucking Boston in April. We're supposed to play in fucking Seattle, I think, a month or two ago? Yep. And then, plus we had all these sick bands from Midwest and shit. There's going to be bands from Australia coming up here to play.
I mean, I'll say from my point of view, you guys with HR and even with Human Dissension, Controlled by Fear before that, you guys had your own little unit of making music very consistently, but it was, in my view, and strictly within the context of Rochester, very independent from any of the subculture milieus that existed in Rochester. It was, very much its own entity that wasn't
Absolutely.
really connected to anything else in Rochester.
That's everything I try to do that for, everything I do, really. It's
yeah.
Because why fucking, that's just, hopping on trends is never appealed.
Well, I'm
to
sure
me.
I'll probably talk about this more later, but now, and maybe this is why you guys are doing well and are dealing with this relatively well. Everyone is in that position now because the milieu has been removed because there's no fucking shows.
Yeah. You can't, it's hard to be the hype band now in COVID 2020 and during COVID times because, what makes something hype? Literally the only thing there is the music. There's no more, I'm playing at this bar and it's packed with people who don't care about my band, but I'm getting paid, there's girls, etc. That has completely been removed. Yeah, there's no, I remember, I think it was Axe to Grind. Axe to Grind's they're yeah, this is hardcore cheat sheet. Play a show, a decent show. Get 10 or 15 or 20 of your friends and have them all mosh and go fucking crazy and take a video of it, put it online. That gets you oh shit, look at this fucking band. This band sounds awesome. Like you can't do that now. You can't do anything. There's no cheat sheet. There's no, dude, you don't have the live element that punk and hardcore and grindcore and death metal, almost including death metal to an extent,
It thrives on that shit.
thrives on that shit.
Should I elaborate on that before?
Well, I mean, what? The fact that there's no live shows?
The effect
we all know why.
the effect of live shows not existing, as I see it, is it's pretty interesting. I've been thinking about this a lot. So I'm glad that you sort of popped this question on us today. Start before the live show. Let's examine like what happens when you decide to make art or music, any kind of art. What you're doing is you have this sense of self, which is just a sense. It's not a real thing. It's something these shadows that are pulsating through you that you think you see. And the first step is you make that into a fucking thing, a painting or a piece of music or, something that exists in the world. Mm-hmm. Now you have feedback from this thing you created. You have your sense of self here, and then over there is this thing. And there's a dialectic between you and what you've created. Because now you can look at that, and that informs your sense of self and develops it. And you can look at it and see reflections of yourself, see things you didn't expect. You're like, I didn't know I had that in me. That's interesting. Maybe I'll fucking do a little bit more of that and a little more of this. But for people depending on how needy their egos are, mine being very needy myself, that level of feedback or validation that you get from just gazing upon your art and having it in its own sort of inanimate way look back at you, that's insufficient typically. You need people to look at you.
Yes.
Because that's really how your sense of self develops. Like I won't say you wouldn't have it. You wouldn't be aware of your sense of self if you weren't being gazed upon by others. And so we really need that. And one vector for getting that for some people is presenting your art to them. And music and live performance is the most clearest way to go out and do that. I think this COVID thing is causing all kinds of psychic consternation for people. Not so much because people can't perform in front of an audience. The act of performing in front of the audience is not any different from just playing on a stage by yourself. What's missing is the audience is no longer performing for you, because everything to act in this world is a performance of self. Everything you do is an attempt to take that sense of self and render it in the real world through a performance. Yeah. So the audience is performing for you too, some more so than others. There's certain people who will remain unnamed where you see them at a show and it's very clear that they are striking poses and hoping that people are looking at them. And having those people look at you, that's more feedback. That's more validation. You can incorporate that into your little shadows, and then it's reflected back into the art. What's fascinating now, and what I'm interested to see, is now that vector of feedback has been cut off, people are sort of alone with their art. And I think it's going to affect the art that people create. I don't know how yet, because the sort of wave of things actually coming out hasn't happened. But cutting off that second dialectic that happens, where it's sort of the audience interfacing with you through your art, that's gone now. So it's just you and your art, and I'm curious to see how people do that. And the only other thing I would add on that note is the only way to get the art out now is virtual. It's through releases. It's through the internet, probably mostly. But I think the virtuality of it makes it more real, because the bullshit, the shit that's really fake, is all the stuff that happens in real life. You go to a fucking show. They're not really paying attention. There's a girl over there. She's looking at you. You're looking at her. Oh, no, she's looking at somebody else.
Yeah.
Fuck me. People are drinking. This is all bullshit. And the social niceties that come with attending a show and having to navigate this milieu that and this is especially relevant in Rochester, because it's so small and it's so incestuous, and everybody's fucked everybody, and people have little fucking problems with each other.
I haven't fucked anyone in the Rochester punk scene, and it's gonna stay that way.
Yeah, you are one of the wise ones. So even though that's the stuff that like transpires in the realm of reality, that's the stuff that's fake. So I think it'll be
where
interesting
you can
to see what happens when people are alone with their art, and the fakeness of reality has been robbed from them by the tyrant Cuomo and the demon Fauci.
The demon Fauci. That's where, but yeah, I think you're right. You're totally right, because like live setting is where you can fake it all.
Yes.
Now we're like, if you choose to be online, you are forced to, after months, maybe in the first few months, I can see you kind of being like, you can still, get away with posing. But at what point is that breaking your fucking psyche and being like having to like put on this facade and not getting any of the rewards that you would get from a live setting?
Yes.
You were not getting any of that. So not
That
only are
validation is
you,
gone.
if you are a faker, which I don't think there's as many fakers as people think there is, but there definitely are. I think it doesn't benefit you to be like that anymore, which is maybe a good thing because you're learning. I think this will end up having people learn what they really think about what they do a little bit more. Oh, I actually don't like this stuff. To which, that's shitty to hear, whether it be punk music, whether it be drawing, whether it be this, whether it be, whatever it is. If I'd rather you figure that out now than putting on a facade and wasting time that you in years would be like, I wish I had that back.
No, this is absolutely a litmus test. I mean, anybody who's seen The Matrix or whatever can find the fiction and reality. The real challenge now is we have to find the real that hides in the realm of the virtual. Because if you're talking about a music release, whatever, that is in some sense virtual. It's not literally transpiring in front of you. So that's the real challenge we're looking at now, is who can find that and who can produce that.
So I guess, what do we think of like Rochester punk before COVID? Was it like, and not even just punk, but like maybe our scene? I think it's easy to say our scene in general.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what did I think of Rochester punk before COVID? I didn't think of it. There was no thinking of punk in Rochester.
Completely agree. I mean, it's like there is no scene to speak of. It's not like it was like fucking 10 years ago,
Or even
you could probably say like 6 or 7, I guess. Yeah. Because I mean, I think the key thing with that is that I noticed is that, like, back in, between 10 to 6 years ago, there would be, like, cool touring punk bands coming through.
Yeah.
And I feel like that hasn't really been a thing, like, at all around here for...
There's no demand for it now.
No.
People are not, like, into that music, really, at all.
Rochester definitely seems
reasons.
more like a metal town. Because, you see all these fucking 80s, early 90s, like retro acts.
Yeah.
And they draw, fucking 100 people at the Bug Jar or something.
That's one thing I'll say about, like, the year or two preceding COVID. But my prediction at the time was that metal was going to come back in a big way in Rochester. I don't know what the fuck's going to happen now, but that was my prediction of where things were headed
all
at that
because of
point.
that. There was that online study that was like, oh, here are the most metal cities based on, like, the amount of bands per population capita or something, and like Rochester was like the 4th somehow.
Yeah, that's weird.
Which that's weird.
I'll say I think the issue is that, like, and this kind of goes into my next question. Or I guess my thoughts first is that it was one of those things where I didn't like you guys. I didn't really think too much of it because it's like we're doing our own fucking thing.
Yeah.
Regardless, and we will always do our own thing. So. But our own thing involves, like, bands coming through here. So we had a bunch of shows.
Oh, that's
lined up.
true. We oh, you know what? Yeah, I didn't even think it because we were kind of doing
outside
that.
stimulus.
I had Bird Flesh and fucking General Surgery booked.
I had Deterioration was supposed to play here in June.
Meth Leopard and Nakai. I had booked a tour for fucking...
Extortion.
Extortion,
yeah, that's right.
on the East Coast. So I was kind of like making my way. And here's the thing, for anyone listening, I am not doing any of that next year because it probably won't happen. And also, I kind of realized I hate booking shows. So that's something I realized. I realized I hate booking shows. It's fucking annoying, especially because I'm playing in a band and I have a label and a bunch of other shit. I'd rather not have to waste my time and spend all my money giving bands money and, like, it's a frustrating thing. But I thought that Rochester could be and should be a bustling city. It's just I think the issue for the last few years is there hasn't been consistent bands, and there hasn't been as much, like, connection between, like, local bands and, like, the audiences in regards to, like, getting good bands to open up like bigger tour packages and shit.
I think you're missing a huge piece of this, though. There's like almost like a category error that's happened in this discussion so far.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about punk, and I think
Punk and hardcore, even. I'll
Yeah.
say I'll throw hardcore is fucking punk. I don't care what anyone says.
I think what non-Rochester listeners maybe should be aware of. Are you? Did you make your point? Can
I think so.
Finish what
Ultimately,
you're-
like,
finish what you're saying, and then I
ultimately,
have
my
some shit
point
to
is
say.
that like Rochester wasn't on that bad of a track, but I think maybe it's on a better track now because of Undeath doing so well, and I don't think they're trying to like move or anything like that. Who fucking knows? And I think that'll be a good boon to the local scene because seeing a band to go back to earlier, our first show, one of my first punk shows, I saw a band called Ass Beer who had members of Destructs, and I was eventually roommates with one of them.
members of Brain Car
both
as
of
well.
them.
Members of Braincar as well. Both members of Ass Beer. And they like blew my fucking head off. They were super loud. It was a crusty blackened D beat kind of stuff. I want to say blackened because that's a stupid word.
Jared is, he's one of the craziest drummers
Just
I've ever seen.
a devastating band that when I saw them, I was like, this is what I want to see.
You know what though, and this is, I have other shit to say, but this is really important too. What you're describing is like a young teenage kid getting involved in punk in Rochester. I haven't seen young kids at a fucking show here in forever. There was some of them that came around to some of the metal shows when Fatal Curse would come from Moravia and play here. But that is, since like I started going to shows and then you guys and some of the West Side people subsequently did, I was always like, after that sort of what happened with that, and I can describe that in a second. I was always just waiting. Like, I remember when Live Bait started, I thought it would be like with Brain Car, because I started Brain Car. We didn't have much of an audience at first, and then you guys and the Hilton kids came around, and I was like, oh, this is the fucking audience that I've been waiting for. These are other fucking young kids.
Yeah.
And I assumed it would just be like cyclical, like the fucking laws of punk would make it so that there would always be a wave of high school kids who were into punk who would want to fucking mosh and start trouble and listen to fast music. That has not fucking happened. Like, there has not been an influx of fucking young blood since we came around. And
Yep.
I think that's a big fucking problem too.
Too
and
busy playing
that is
Fortnite.
yeah, well,
Straight
exactly.
up.
This is a societal problem that goes beyond this. I don't know if, and we can maybe do another episode on this because I need to pick it apart more. Fucking, there's something going on in our society that is making punk, this thing that has remained relevant for a really fucked up amount of time, not relevant to young people anymore. And
I think a lot of
that's
people
concerning.
would be like, oh, well, like it's different now because of but it's not.
I'm not
like,
talking about COVID. I'm talking about way before.
No,
this.
I'm not talking about COVID either.
I mean, you're talking
I'm talking
about
about
like
like
Donald Trump
people
shit,
being like
right?
no, I'm talking about people being like, oh, rap's cool now. Rap has always been fucking cool. That's the thing that pisses me off when people are like, wow, rap's big now. Rap's been big since I was a kid.
Since
that is
before
not that is not
shit,
the
even
issue.
go like the 90s, man. That shit was selling huge.
The fucking issue, that literally my second question that I wanted to talk about.
We should get
was this is will we see a younger audience in underground music post COVID? And I would want to say, and I say underground music, not because just punk, and that goes to my third question, which is about genre classification.
Before we do either of those questions, can I say a couple things?
Sure.
One, I think we should come back to this because my answer regarding that is that people that are not already into it, who are growing up in our world, they don't need to leave the broader culture to find punk because they're already getting what they would need from punk in some form. Actually, no. They're getting what they think. They're getting what we thought we needed from punk as teenagers elsewhere because society has become very punk, but only in the worst possible ways. But that I'm putting that out there as a teaser. What I wanted to can I give a little bit more shape to sort of the Rochester narrative and how we ended up there?
let's wrap up the Rochester thing. We'll
yeah,
go into
I'm going to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a little.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
wrap up Rochester. We'll take a quick break.
I can't. We would have to do another episode to really get in depth on Rochester punk history. I would love to do that.
Yeah,
but
That is absolutely a thing we'll do.
But to give you the shape of it, the Rochester punk scene was fucking awesome for like years. I would say from like 2008 through 2013, 2014, it was fucking great for a variety of reasons. It was very recognizably punk in a number of ways, but pretty diverse range of bands. There were more rock and roll sounding bands. There were hardcore bands, diverse shows, musically, creatively speaking. And really fun shows to go to because they were dangerous. There was, mind you, like horrible things happening back then. Tumultuous fights at shows, people having beef with each other, people doing drugs. Or
like every show being like that.
Every show being like that.
I swear to God, I remember like from like 2011 to 2012, it's just like, oh, did you hear they got into a fight? Yes, I did hear.
Always. Every time there were drugs. I'm largely speaking for myself, but I know I wasn't the only one. Probably, I know definitely horrible treatment of women, awful things happening. But it was exciting, and it was fun. It was something that if I was a young person, I would want to be involved with. And what you're looking at when you see that happening is you're looking at a thing that is becoming. No, it was exciting because it didn't know what it was yet. It was still just like this raw energy bursting out in all these different directions, and it hadn't crystallized. It was still becoming. The tragedy of becoming in any form, and you can see this in your personal life too, is eventually the thing becoming is a thing become. And once it has become, it begins to grow brittle, and then it dies. And that is what happened here with punk in Rochester, is once people settled into like, this is the music I like to play, I happen to enjoy doing, which for most people in Rochester seemed to be more sort of rock and roll, surf influenced kind of stuff, not punk sounding shit. Once that happened, it became brittle. It was no longer a thing becoming. That sort of energy that is part of the becoming process had dissipated. And then, and this ties in with my earlier point, the funny thing is, though, that music that people started playing appealed to people outside the scene, right? And then what you have is, again, they're seeing this different audience, these people from the indie rock scene, garage rock scene, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I don't know these fucking people. They are now performing for you. They're gazing upon you, so they're shaping your sense of self. So these people involved with the punk scene, many of whom I'm still good friends with, and I do have tremendous respect for creatively, their sense of self was shaped by this new audience, and then in turn that changed the art, because the art comes from you.
Because the new audience more than likely would be like, oh, I like this thing you're doing, but like this other thing, I don't like. I am not a fan of punk.
The new audience was not punk.
I was
telling
a friend. I was telling some friends on Facebook today how when we go to parties and stuff like that, and people would put on like, let's listen to Chubby Checkers or Fats Domino and stuff like that. And you know what? I don't hate that shit. But fucking Christ, I thought we were punk. Put on Negative Effects. Put on fucking Negative Approach. Put on Black Flag. I don't want to hear. I don't want to fucking hear this shit. Like, and it's not because it's bad, but and I'm not trying to say that you can't like anything else. But my God. It's almost as if they had this contempt for this thing that they grew up on.
100%.
And they wanted to be more mature, which is truly the downfall of every fucking good punk band.
It's that, but it's also, it is, again, regards to sense of self and identity that corresponds to that. Are the people involved with this podcast and some of the people we're in bands with, for whatever reason, because of our circumstances, etc., we didn't get the sort of feedback, like we retained punk as part of our identity and our sense of self. We weren't like and whatever feedback, array of feedback we got, made that validating for us. These other people, either that ceased to be validating or they got validation that was more potent to them elsewhere, and then that in turn changed the music they were making and changed what they wanted to do. And now I'm sure I'm going to sound like an asshole and people are going to say, I just want to play the music I want to play. I don't buy that. I don't think I do that. I don't just play the music I want to play. The music I play is absolutely tied to my identity and my fucking false shadow conception of who I am. Like, what the fuck? Why wouldn't it be? I don't know. I got the kind of validation that works for me came elsewhere, or came from punk. With these other people, it was more potent from these other sources, and that led to this thing that had become crystallized that was the sort of previously the Rochester punk scene dissipated, and now these people we grew up with are just parts of the Rochester music scene broadly. So it's a dissipation, and that has to do with that is an identity issue. I'm not really talking about the music they're playing. They all play good music, and like I don't fucking just listen to punk music. Like I listen to mostly other stuff. But on the issue of identity, which when you're talking about a scene, a quote unquote scene, a fucking milieu, you're talking about identity. So we saw the musical shift I don't care about. There was an identity shift and a shift of tribal group identity that occurred. And I think that's just the way people respond to that validation and feedback, the performance they're seeing in the form of people at shows and people they hang out with.
No, that's 100%. And I think that happens.
And we're fucking freaks because we would rather not, and this other shit works for us instead.
But here's the thing, that happens to every scene. I mean, I guess look at the DC scene in like the 80s, like from the mid late 80s. It's like they like stopped playing hardcore, and it's like that's fine, and like they were able to develop like into this other thing. You just got to be able to develop it. But like I think the issue with like comparing it to something like the DC where they stopped, playing hardcore, playing some other stuff, I think you could still tie that to punk, but a lot of the stuff that people are playing now is not. You can't really. You can tie it to punk, but it's like we're stretching it a little thin there. Which, and to go back to what you say, I don't give a shit. That's not a problem. You can make really good music. Some of the people that we may have on in the future make some really fucking good music, and they're super talented, and they've always been super talented. It's just some things I just don't care for as much. Or just, I think another thing is seeing something that I was part of kind of change in a way that I'm not a big fan of. Or at the very least, I think what you were saying, an identity change as opposed to simply just a musical shift.
Yes.
You can still play punk. You can still play like whatever you want, and it still kind of be like, oh, well, it's not necessarily punk, but they're in the punk scene.
Exactly.
You can do that.
Now I'm curious to see what happens now that because that component of the identity that comes from that social milieu and the fucking shows at the bars or whatever, as we talked about earlier, that's gone now.
Yeah.
So maybe some of these folks who have musically progressed, it'll progress further or progress in a different direction because it's not that anymore. That has been stripped away. So you're just left alone with your art, like I said earlier. And but also as a listener, some of that stuff that maybe we would have been dismissive of from Rochester and elsewhere, maybe we'll be able to appreciate it more now because we won't be mentally associating it with a show full of people that we don't know, but we don't like, and we're quite certain they don't like us.
I mean, if I could just maybe add something to add, maybe wrap up the convo on the Rochester
Please do, yeah.
aspect. I mean, thinking about it, it's like, things might seem kind of rocky, but I always just remember it's like, man, things are doing good here, but then there's Buffalo, which is like, what the fuck happened to that place? Like that,
or fucking Syracuse. I mean, my God.
That's
shout out to Hunted Down though, one of my favorite bands that I had the pleasure of seeing in my punk tenure.
Hey, I'll shout out VOC from Buffalo.
Yeah.
That was sick band.
There's some good. Gas Chamber, my favorite band, probably from Buffalo. So I to wrap it up, yes, Rochester has changed, but that is honestly a thing to be expected. I just think the issue is that kind of changed in a way we maybe aren't like super familiar with, or are like it takes a while to fucking digest.
The bigger problem is not that it's changed, it's that it stopped changing. When it was changing into this different thing, this more maybe palatable style music, that was for me.
You mean
personally,
like the punk scene in and of itself stopped changing, or you mean the music? Because the music changed.
Both. Like when the music was changing, that was still exciting. It's like they're exploring new territory. I think the where I start to get bored is when the changes end and it's like, oh, this isn't like a punk band exploring new musical territory, et cetera, different audiences. And the music is almost tertiary to it. Like when I started seeing like, oh, this isn't shifting, like they have now shifted. They've stopped becoming and have become. That for me is when it becomes really boring. But hopefully COVID, regardless of whether it's changed, I hope things start changing again. I don't even care what they change into. Just a different direction and the process of beginning again. A decrystallization would be that's what I'd like to see, regardless of what it sounds like. That for me would be exciting, to have a real ferment of things that are shifting and evolving and moving into new territory. I am absolutely not the closed-minded punk guy who gets pissed off because somebody wants to play surf music. Like, not even close. It's just do that, but keep going. Like, just don't stop. Like, because then the energy is gone, and then what am I there for? You know?
Yeah, and I think that specifically entails to punk music and the punk scene in of itself, because I think punk is always kind of like, it's, when we say punk music, we don't mean just like the Sex Pistols or, fucking Minor Threat or something like that. We mean like
Judas Priest.
Yeah, we mean Judas Priest. We mean
Metallica.
Load era Metallica.
Yes.
2x4. We're talking about just like transgressive music
Underground.
that is confrontational and underground to an extent. I mean, again, you don't need to like beat up everybody. The singer doesn't have to hit people with the fucking base of the microphone or a 2x4. But seeing changes is a good thing, and I agree. I think if things aren't changing or evolving to some extent, then they become crystallized and complacent, and then it becomes boring and stale and
always becoming.
And
never
what
become.
What hurts that the most is a lack of young blood.
It's true. It's true.
So we'll get to that. We're gonna take a quick break here, and we'll get to that and kind of explore some other things that go along with it.
We're the End, Rochester, New York. I'm James. We live by one belief: kill everyone, kill yourself, or we'll kill you. Bring the punk back to the chaos where it belongs.
What's the name of your band?
The End. The end of the motherfucking world.
From
Rochester, New York, chaos style.
And we're back.
Oi, oi.
It's a beautiful, snowy day here in Rochester, New York. Got fucking 4 more months of this shit to look forward to.
I just
I
blew
love the cold.
like Juul vapor into the mic, and I hope it doesn't sound completely awful. I'll try to avoid doing that.
It's everyone. If you're straight edge, sorry, you just got some fucking nicotine in your ears.
You're fucked now.
You're fucked. You're addicted to vapes. All right, so to go off of what we were saying, so pretty much, things not changing as much in Rochester, kind of a bad thing.
And it's not. I mean, the other key thing is it was a cohesive whole before. There were cliques, believe you me, there were cliques, but you could identify like the scene as a scene.
Yeah.
And I don't really feel like that's the case anymore.
And
it's become dissipated. The tribal identity is gone.
Which
maybe
that's a good thing to an extent,
It's
but
a necessary thing.
So the next thing I want to talk about is a younger audience in the underground music scene post-COVID. Now, I had told these guys that we were going to talk about like the first question, but like everything else I'm kind of like come up with because I think it's an interesting thing to think of off the top of your head. And thinking about it, with this lack of social interaction, let's say 8 months from now, COVID vaccine's good. Things are better. Let's say end of next year, things are looking more normal. President Joe Biden is
Vibing.
Dead. Dead by then.
I was going to say in a coma. So, because he fell trying
Hit
to
his
get,
head in the shower.
he fell because his ice cream cone fell off. And
He
went to
dropped
go
his
for
ice
it.
cream cone in his Corvette and crashed the motherfucker.
You know what a love letter is, neighbor?
We're giving our neighbor a joyride, Jack. I love the Biden Frank Booth crossover is great. He's just on Anderson Cooper, and he's who is this fuck? President Biden. This is Anderson Cooper here from CNN.
Get your facts straight, Jack.
So, do you think that, like, because, like, things have been so isolated that
you're
we
a neighbor.
will see a people wanting to explore things that they haven't. So maybe the idea of playing music live or going to see music more is a thing. I see a lot of people that have said, like, man, I'm not taking shows for granted anymore. I used to, and that sucks. And I agree. I feel the same way. Listening to a fellow punk podcast, Demolisten, the hosts, talked about going to see bands that sucked and just making fun of them. And I was listening to an episode, and I was just like, man, I would kill to be able to do that. I want to see a band suck, and me and my friends who are also playing that show have to go outside because it's so bad and just laugh.
It was great. Yeah,
I want that again, and I feel like I think this will, maybe not in punk music, but I think in underground music and different various subgenres and stuff like that, we'll see more people trying to do a little more weird stuff, pop-ups. I hope so. I hope the live streaming thing will kind of inspire people to just be more DIY in that sense.
I think live music will probably be very lucrative when this is over for the big groups that people wanted to see before anyway. In terms of punk, and I think I would imagine this would apply to other sort of subcultural genres too, or to some of them. I think COVID or no COVID, I am not optimistic about young people being into punk music, and I will tell you why. I guess where I would start in unpacking this is I would go back and ask myself what drew me to the punk scene. And it wasn't, I loved that music. I listened to the fucking Clash album a million times or whatever, but I was into that music for a reason. People always say, like, oh, I don't judge anybody for their music taste. And it's like, no, of course I do. You like what you like for a reason. I can derive judgments from that. And a big part of punk for me was, as we touched on earlier, identity development. Like, I remember thinking in 7th grade, being at a fucking school dance, staring at all the people dancing and not being able to be a part of it and thinking, I'm a fucking nerd or I'm a loser. And then I discovered punk. I was like, I don't have to be a nerd or loser. I can be a punk. Great. It's like fucking existential or identity alchemy. Like, I got to transform my negative traits that may be uncool into being cool. Kids now don't need that because they can all do it on the fucking internet. I know I sound like an old man, but there's so many other vectors for reinventing yourself. The draw of punk and maybe people want to deny it, but I've seen countless people I know do this through punk. You don't need punk rock to do that anymore. You can just do that fucking online. You can be whoever the fuck you want, and people will look at you. It's Warhol's 15 minutes of fame for everybody thing is real now, and it's worse than he would have ever dared imagine. So I think in COVID, for all I know, might make it worse because people will get accustomed to just doing that. It's easy to be cool on the internet. But the other part of this, and this gets to like a broader problem in our society, is it was not just my own individual identity wanting to be cool. Once I got involved, it provided a group identity. I had friends. I had a tribe, as it were, right?
Yeah.
That's I think a human need. We're social animals. And I think a lot of the younger generation maybe have been divorced from that because we've just all been getting so much more atomized because the nature of sort of this consumer capitalist system, having any sort of social bonds, being connected to anyone else, caring about someone else as you would care for yourself, under neoliberalism, this hegemonic just reality we live under, it doesn't make sense. You are doing something irrational by doing that. You are going against not the real natural order, but the symbolic order that we perceive as natural by doing that in any capacity. And I think maybe for young people who and that symbolic order just continuously reinforces itself and grows stronger, and technology has made it easy for that to happen. For young people, like, that glimpse of the real that we got that drew us towards this tribe and the music that comes with it, they might not even have the fucking antennae to pick up on that.
Yeah. I think
they
also,
don't need a tribe. I don't know.
Thing that I think about punk and like rock music, people always say rock music is dying or it's dead. And it's not that it's dying or dead. It's just that it's splintered off into so many different iterations of itself over time.
Yes.
That it's become, and I think we should probably do an episode where we talk about like big subcultural moments in history. like the last big rock thing, reinvention of itself was like firmly in rock, I guess, was probably nu metal. But even then, that had like rap and other influences.
You could
in
include like the scene kid emo.
I was gonna say, yeah,
My
like a
Chemical
Day to
Romance
Remember,
thing,
stuff
yeah,
like
that kind of
For
stuff.
fuck's
too.
sake,
Oh, yeah.
you want to talk about identity construction
Oh,
in
man.
social media? I mean, my God.
That was not too much longer after that, though, right?
I mean, that was like
early
maybe
mid-2000s.
I would say that goes to at least like 10 years after nu metal was like a thing.
So like late 2000, late
Yeah.
aughts.
Yeah.
late
I think.
aughts, yeah.
So when something splits into so many different groups, and that split has like been over 60 fucking years since rock and roll was a thing in the 50s or even the 40s, we could maybe even say to some extent. You're going to get all these subculture groups that are completely different from one another. A nu metal person is not the same as a hair metal guy. It's not the same as an alt metal guy in the early 90s. It's not the same as like the fucking thrash guy also in the late 80s with the hair, like the hair
Like a
metal and the
straight
thrash
edge
metal guy
Well, and
hated each other.
hardcore guy.
It
You
has
know-
only gotten worse and will only get worse because, again, the nature of the rules we live under, the ontology that we're operating in is such that it is all individualistic. Like the rational choice is to only look out for yourself. So your identity is formed on that basis, and that lends itself to everyone gets to have their niche little subculture that they're narcissistically, it's a narcissistic fucking thing. Like, oh, I'm not into that. I'm into this thing that's this much little bit different than that. And because everything's just geared towards that narcissism, towards that individualism, and then your identity, you're not able to construct it relative to other people, and it's just made, and it goes back and forth because the organs of cultural production that are all on the internet now, they literally have fucking algorithms to show you the most specific thing possible that's the most similar to what you're already into, and that creates like a fucking wormhole towards you only being into this like specific flavor of Twitch stream or whatever the fuck it may be. And even things that are broadly shared with other people, it's also fucking sterile. Like, you're not learning anything about the other people that are into it, and they're not learning anything about you. There's no like meaningful identifiers there, I don't think.
I think there will be a backlash to that kind of to an extent. I think that especially if this continues more longer, people will kind of be like, I want to like I think the cottagecore stuff, even though that's like very different.
What the hell is that?
That's not core and like hardcore. It's like it's like an aesthetic. It's like traditional living and aesthetic. It's like I want to live on a farm, but I'm on the internet too. It's very weird and
That
stupid.
was like a right wing, like alt
That was
right
kind of
thing
a.
a few
It was
years
co-opted
ago.
by right wing stuff. It wasn't necessarily right.
No, dude, that came from like
No,
think,
it wasn't. It wasn't. Trust me. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. But regardless, my point stands is that it's a reaction to what is going on. Is like, I don't want to live in a fucking city. I want to live there, and I kind of agree. I would love to live on a fucking acre of land like a dozen acres of land by myself and my partner and all that. But I think there will be a backlash to, and there kind of, I think maybe there is to internet culture in and of itself, where we embrace live shows, we embrace physical media and stuff like that. I'm kind of seeing it already to an extent, and I think we see it with vinyl being a thing, but I think with live streaming being kind of a thing and bands having to that was not a thing. Like, I mean, it was a thing, but it was not a thing that bands did. Like, who'd want, if you told me 2 years ago, hey, you want to watch a live stream concert? You'd be like, no fucking way. Are you stupid? Like, no. Now it is. But that makes bands be creative and smart, and going back to the roots of
That's
punk,
true.
DIY.
I have some hope for that. Yeah.
So
that
I
could
think,
be good.
and I think what needs to happen is that we need to stop being so hyper specific about things, and that goes to my next question. Oh,
Could I just like to add
go
something
one,
with
yeah,
to
finish,
that?
Yeah.
I think like a key thing with it is, and I don't want to sound like old man yells at cloud over here, but people really should. It's like, guys, get off the fucking internet every once.
Old
in a while.
man yells at iCloud.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what I just did.
Yeah.
But seriously, it's like, come on, guys, like get off the internet. Try to.
And by internet, you mean social media.
Social media. I'm sorry, not internet.
Because
yeah.
I think
social
the internet
media's
is
kind of
great.
monopolized the internet, but yeah.
I agree. I took like 2.5 weeks off Facebook, and like pretty much social media in general, and I really need to do it again because
I've been off since fucking July.
oh man, that's
And I mean, yeah.
I'm sure so many people
I'm
are like
fine.
hearing that and being like, wow, that's incredible. He's a modern day
I'm a
hero.
I'm a true hero for that. Yeah.
You
heard it here
you're an
first.
ascetic. Can I talk about cottagecore for a second? Not to give the history of it, but to give an interpretation.
Did you look
of
it up?
No, I didn't look it up. I don't care where it came from. I just want to assess it
Okay.
as a symptom. I think this is all kinds of fucked up because if you look at what they're idolizing, and mind you, I'm not trying to diss people who live in the country, and nor do I not think that it would sound nice.
To
but
stop you right there, we may also be wrong about exactly what I'm sure someone's like,
it doesn't matter.
actually,
No,
but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I'm being an idealist
Yeah.
now. I'm talking about my ideal of cottagecore right now, and even if that idea of it is wrong, what I can derive from that idea can still be correct.
Yes.
So,
All right, let's go off.
This is a horrid symptom, I think, because, and again, I'm not trying to diss ruralites or say that it doesn't sound nice to me, but it is wanting to live like by yourself out in the free real estate that we stole here in the United States. Like that is fundamentally on some level an antisocial thing, right? And the reason
I think so.
yeah, it is
definitely.
antisocial. And the reason people want to do that and want to get the fuck away from the cities is because the idea that a city could be pro-social has left people's conception entirely, which is fucked up because it's exactly what a city is supposed to be. The precise appeal of it is that you can be near other people and you can have meaningful exchanges with them and form bonds with them. And that's fucking not even on the table because we've been so stripped of our humanity itself by fucking the system and wage labor and everything else. So that rejection of urban life that is like apparently increasingly common, and in some circles even taken for granted. Like obviously, I'd rather not live here. I want to be a fucking landed gentry. Maybe I'll have a plantation. Like it shows that our horizons of hope with regards to having like real bonds with other human beings and creating a pro-social environment have been completely shut off. And then again, you're talking about people on the internet doing a simulation of this.
Yes.
So they're
not even doing it.
They're not even doing it. They are fantasizing about something that is on some level a little bit horrible because that would still be so much better than the reality that they're confronted with now. And that just shows how tiny our horizons of possibility have become with regards to our relations with other humans, and at the core of it, our ability to live as human subjects, or as subjects that are human, rather. So we can. I just wanted to get that the fuck out.
To also kind of piggyback off that, I feel like sometimes that is a reaction towards like forced socializations that people may feel. Like having to have the jobs that they have that they don't want to have, like
'cause you're not a human at your job.
Yeah, and like just like not rejecting, but like not liking your situation, and like again living in like kind of a fantasy world. So, I understand why if someone's like, because I kind of am on a level where it's like, man, I would love to have just like a place where I can go, and I'm like, I don't want to be like, I'm in the middle of nowhere and like no one can get me, and you have to have my coordinates to find my place. I don't want to be like that. I want to be like 10 minutes out of the city. You know what I mean? Like,
it sounds great. Yeah.
My one coworker has like a bunch of land and he hunts there, but he like works with us and he's not antisocial in regard. He's not like, I hate the city. He wanted to move in closer to the city.
house, right? Or
Yeah. Obviously it didn't work out, but it's just he's also a crazy person. I like him a lot, but I think I hope that people reject the notion of like being an online person all the time, because it fucking sucks and it's draining. And the funny thing is that everyone like agrees on that to some degree. It's like,
It's the same with everything. Like,
it's like,
everyone
don't do it then.
Everyone agrees about all the things that are horrible, but we view them the same way we view the fucking sun rising. And because we have no choice, I'm no better. I'm not trying to sound like wake up sheeple. I've got a fucking red pill shoved up my ass. Like, we don't have a choice, but it's on some level to come to terms with it. But it is insane how much of a consensus it is that it's bad, and yet it's
can't
bad
pull
in the
ourselves
same way
away
your
from
fucking
looking at
back
it.
pain is bad.
Yeah. It's like the Ark of the Covenant. Like,
But yeah, I think logging off, and I haven't logged off, but logging off is a good idea because fundamentally all that stuff, it strips you away from the moment. And I get why people don't want to be in the moment because the moment is horrifying. And my God, you might have to be alone with yourself and realize that there's no self there. And then what are you left with? And it is an absolute terror to deal with. But
we're not saying
you got to do it, though. You have to start from that. You can
Yeah.
go somewhere else afterwards. You have to start from the moment and people say live in the moment and they use it as a stand-in for do whatever the fuck you feel like, fucking do drugs, eat garbage food,
That's
whatever.
bullshit.
That's living in the moment means I'm not even talking about living in the moment. I'm talking about being in the moment. Like deal with the moment as it is there without adding more spectacle and symbology to it than you need and searching for things that are engineered such that you're not going to find them, which is what you're doing on the internet.
And we're not saying that like people shouldn't be on the internet or anything like that. Like, but just being off social media, that's a baby step. Just logging off fucking Facebook for a couple days for the weekend and like, I'm going to play this video game that I haven't played in a while. I'm going to listen to my records, actually.
Meditate. Read a
I'm going
fucking
to
book.
meditate. I'm going to work out. I'm going to take a big walk. I'm going to do this. I'm going to cook a big meal.
Talk to someone.
I'm going to have a conversation with my aunt or my grandma. Do that. Like, that's little things.
Meet your neighbors.
The thing about
Go to Ghost Dog and buy a pack of Whippets.
Yeah. It's about, like, you got to, like, all these things, like, are social, all these social interaction things are, like, I've been viewing things like exercises and, like, building new muscles. That if you're not super familiar with that, then that's something you got to work on. So I guess to piggyback, kind of go from there. The next question is, does genre classifications hurt punk and specifically underground music in the year 2020?
Do gender classifications.
Gender
for punk.
classification.
Gender?
Genre. Sorry. Did I say gender?
It sounded like you said gender. Yeah.
Oh, my bad, guys. Genre classifications. Do genre
It
classifications.
would have to be a
hurt?
very different episode.
Like, is the idea that being like, we're not, like, but what I mean is a band, people wanting to start a band, and instead of just being like, let's make music, they're like, we want to sound like this. We want to be like, play this specific. We want to play Swedish D beat from the mid 80s.
That absolutely hurts. Yeah, of course. I mean, right, because it goes into the whole thing where, bands, they try to already take a template that's been set instead of, trying to actually do something creative and maybe, I don't want to say push the boundaries, but just, something more so than just your, run-of-the-mill punk metal band, whatever,
Yeah. Like, I think with Leaking Head, we've been talking about some stuff. We kind of just wrote a new song for the most part. Like, I mean,
halfway there.
we're about
Over halfway there.
And it doesn't sound like all the other stuff that we're doing, but it's not the same thing. It's not like, oh, this is a D-beat song. Oh, this sounds like this kind of a band. We're trying to inexplicably avoid that when we're writing stuff. At least I am. Because I don't want to, I mean, it's going to be punk music. That's all I know. This is punk music. But that's kind of as like far as I would want to go, to where if I say anything else, someone will go, actually, it doesn't sound like that. I remember I posted a video and I said, this is kind of like Japanese, Swedish kind of hardcore, and someone was like, no, it's not. How the fuck do you fucking know?
I think
like
the punk element has to be there on the level of like essence, the articulation, the way that its existence articulates itself can take whatever form you want.
Yeah. Here's maybe a question to kind of really go into it. Does a band get to choose their genre, or does their audience and the people that interpret them choose it?
I think the audience can think whatever they want, and the people in the band can think whatever they want. I mean, to be honest with you, and this isn't me dissing you, but that question just, there's like nothing about that I would care very much about one way or another. with regards to your earlier question, that I do have an answer for. In my experience making art, music, and also my experience in life, and I think this is kind of how progress in the universe functions. Historically, I've found a contradiction here, right? Like, I would start a band and I'd set out with a very specific musical mission in mind. Like, sometimes even as specific as, like with Brain Car, it was the scene with the circle jerks and the decline. I was like, I want to do it exactly like that. Now, the magic for me comes with music when you set out the gate with something like that, and then as you integrate other people into the project and as reality enters the picture, it changes drastically or changes to some extent. And to me, that's magical because it's something that I can't account for. It's not something I can plan for. It's something that just happens. So I think this contradiction between we're just playing music versus we're playing this very specific genre, the way you make great music is you reconcile that contradiction by setting out to, because I generally don't like it when people don't have an idea of what they want to sound like. You know, I think you should set out with maybe even as specific as possible of a mission for what you want to sound like, for sure. But the way you reconcile that contradiction is by being open to it changing.
Yeah,
as it
I
happens.
I agree. And by the whole thing about like the genre thing about the audience and you, the artist, it's more along the lines of like who can truly define what you do if you are at that level.
Question,
if you are at that
is a good
level,
question.
like, and that isn't something that's not something that bands just starting out really can ask, because usually, like you said, when you're starting out, oftentimes bands have very specific, especially in the last like 10, 15 years, bands have very specific ideas set in motion, what they want to sound like.
I think the artist gets a fair amount of saying it. And mind you, I'm not talking about how it should be. I'm talking about how it is. Like, if you come out and say, this is the kind of band we are, a lot of audiences will kind of just take you at your word, I think. Or you'll attract that kind of audience.
But most bands don't do that. Most bands, as far as I know, either don't do that, or like they'll just say, "Hey, we're this."
See, if
someone's saying like, there's that crop of like, Zillakami. What is it?
I think it's Zillakami.
Zillakami.
It's like a Japanese word.
If you said Zillakami is fucking punk, I would say absolutely. Yeah. But I can see someone else in his audience, and I can see him being like, I'm punk. But then I can see someone in his audience being like, you're not punk. Punk is this. And it's like, I guess the question, like, how much should we have people define you or yourself? And is that important? I think it's more important that your audience define you, in a sense, when you are like a dyed-in-the-wool artist. When you're like really trying to just like, I'm at this point, like I think with HR, like, I don't fucking know, like, are we a grindcore band? I don't fucking know. Are we a power violence band? I don't think so. Like, I don't want to call myself a power violence band. Are we a hardcore band? Sure, we're a fucking hardcore band. That's like what I consider us, even though I'm sure a lot of people would be like, this isn't hardcore.
This is a good question. This is a tough
But
one.
I don't know. It's like, I define ourselves by like I want to define ourselves by the most open adjective as possible.
And again, and I haven't come up with a good way to like.
And I think that in the realm of punk, and not just punk. And again, I don't want to talk about just punk. I'm talking about underground subculture and like stuff in general. I think the dyed in the wool, like line in the sand, kind of being like, we're this, hurts it, because someone who doesn't know, someone who only knows punk music, maybe doesn't know what straight edge hardcore is, and that may turn them off from that. Not to say that obviously straight edge hardcore is way different, but like,
it'll turn them off on the level of presentation. But I think the wonderful thing is that you can have a group, a band, whatever, that insists that they are a genre, but that them saying that doesn't like make it so.
Yeah.
And also there is that question that I would like to explore more of, like, you talking about like genres, musical style, or are you talking like essence, energy, etc.? Like that's a tough question. Like does Zillakami sound punk? Like, not in the conventional sense. Does he have punk energy about him? Like, sure.
Absolutely, I would say absolutely.
And I think in terms of interpreting art, like, or music especially, maybe it's more valuable. I mean, punk is a tough one to use, though, because punk has always meant more than a style of music.
Yeah.
That's kind of a terrible example. So, like, because it always had other, like, baggage with it. Like, if my band sounded like the Sex Pistols and I said we were heavy metal, I mean, first and foremost, that would be really funny to do.
Yes.
But also, this is to explore this example further, and I'll say this, and then I don't know how to interpret this, so I'll let you guys interpret this statement. Let's say there's a band that sounds just like the New York Dolls or the Sex Pistols, and they were quite insistent that they were a metal band. Like, to me, that would be awesome. And they were sincere. They weren't, like, doing a bit. Like, they thought that was what metal sounded like. I would think that band was amazing. I would think that was incredible. And I don't know why, but I think that would be really cool. I think I like it when great things are made on accident. I don't know.
That is a confrontational take that I would appreciate. Okay. You know, when Gigi Allen being like, I'm the last rock star, you know, I'm making rock and roll dangerous. It's just like, you are like, there's tons of rock. What are you talking about?
Like in the 80s too.
There's tons of You're rolling around in your shit. That's not what rock music was ever. The beat, Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger wasn't like, all right,
here's where I roll in me shit.
You know, that's not necessarily rock and roll. Now, I think that's what he's saying, but I can't interpret it that way. I interpreted Gigi Allen. Sorry if my levels are peaking here, but I interpret Gigi Allen as she's just like, I'm going to be the most confrontational, like, fucking entity in the fucking room, and you will have to confront me or you will have to run away. And that is fucking brilliant. I watched a live video where he, like, immediately is just hitting people with a fucking microphone base, and it's just like, and setting shit on fire. It's like, this is awesome. Like, whether or not you like Gigi Allen, it's like, that man fucking, like, lived and died by his word. You know, by his word and thought, and like how he wanted. He went out.
Even though he said he was going to kill himself on
stage,
stage,
you're right.
and he just OD'd.
He didn't
which
go
is
out
even more perfect.
He didn't go out necessarily. I'm sure he was like, "Fuck, this sucks." He didn't go out necessarily the way, but he at the very least lived the way he wanted to live. You like Gigi Allen a lot, Tim. So what? I mean, ultimately, I'm trying to think.
You've
of,
asked a few different, like, subgenre related question. I would say,
does it hurt? I guess
it
maybe to kind of go into the, I guess maybe the bigger picture, connected to the other things. Does it hurt the punk scene having so much specific subgenres where hardcore bands, we're only going to play with hardcore bands, we're only going to play with this, as opposed to maybe when we were coming up, you know, in the punk scene, there was a lot of, we were blessed to have all these different things.
Like a rock and roll-y type band, a crust band, or maybe a grind band. You know, hardcore. Or like, even more, like maybe the metal punk kind of thing too.
And is that necessarily good? Do you think that's a good or a bad thing?
And I don't think that's bad.
I don't think those bands should be like, I don't believe that, like, subgenres shouldn't exist. Just so everyone knows, I'm a huge fucking nerd when it comes to subgenres. Someone called Doom Grind, and I was like, I didn't say anything, but it's just like, Doom is a crust band. Just call them, like, they were never grind. They never had as far as I know, a record where blast beats on it. So just call them the right thing.
Well, whoever that person was clearly just lumping them in with that late 80s UK British scene.
Yeah.
Like with all the, with like metal. It was metal and punk back,
I don't know why, but I think it would be silly to call, like, Doom a grind band, but as you said, it's the same milieu. Like, if someone called Napalm Death a crust band, that wouldn't bother me much less. That would be way more fair to me. I think.
I'm not like that, man. That's why I didn't say anything, because it's like, if you said Doom is a grind band, okay, I get it. It's like, you're wrong, but it's like, it's not something where I'm gonna be like actually.
Well, grind is a classification that to me comes off more as specifically musical, whereas a crust like punk is something that describes aesthetics and sort of the essence of the group or their approach more so. So that's one that could be applied more broadly, and you could apply to a group that musically maybe is like grind or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, there were bands that were around in the 80s that were like Flipper isn't a hardcore band, but like Flipper's kind of a hardcore band. They played with all hardcore bands.
Yeah.
That was just their abrasive. That's like on that confrontational approach, I think, too.
Yeah. Do we think that stuff like? Do we think that like? Over maybe not subgenres, but over subgenreing bands. I think that it does have a negative effect because it makes everything a commodity. It's just like
right, because let's take
it's just
Flipper.
like I want bands that sound like Flipper. It's like
take Flipper for it, right? It's like what subgenre would you because like
Dude,
noise
it's
hardcore.
It's the narcissism again. People want to do that because they want something that can fit neatly into their own individual, perfectly curated self-image that they've come up with for themselves. And so the more specific the classification is, the more it can a better fitting puzzle piece it is for this puzzle that they think they're putting together of who they are.
And you know what's kind of to connect it to Rochester is rockcore. I think that's like such a perfect thing to say because it almost means nothing.
Yes.
All the bands that were labeled as rockcore
and everything means nothing. So there you go.
Had no cohesive sound. It wasn't like a grindcore thing where it's like, yeah, they all sound like
they all wore hats when they recorded.
Yeah, it's like rockcore. If our audience doesn't know, I'm doing a tape called the Rockcore Comp. That's just
Volume 3.
Volume 3. It just essentially means you're a punk or hardcore band from Rochester. Rot being the Rochester prefix.
Yeah.
It really meant almost nothing. Spoonful Vikingen, I believe, was considered rockcore.
Yeah.
Not a hardcore band, at all. I've seen, tons of different bands be labeled as
Love
that.
Pork, the weird experimental band I was in.
Yeah.
That was a rockcore band that was on the Rockcore Comp. There's an old axiom I should have looked up. I didn't know I was going to be asked this question, so I didn't. I will later look up where it came from. People will talk about the narcissism of small differences. I've heard this phrase come up in the context of politics because you'll get these people quibbling about, I'm a Marxist-Leninist, I'm a Maoist, I'm a Hojaist, which is what I am, by the way. I'm a Hojaist. But that's kind of a joke, but not really. Anyway, people talk about narcissism of small differences, and I think this is precisely perfect for what we're talking about here. You think that your interpretation that you think is your own of what something is so fucking important, and it's not. It's just important to the whatever it is that you think you're conveying to other people, and they probably don't fucking care.
They absolutely don't. Or maybe they do. I don't know. So ultimately, I guess everyone, if you're listening, and call me out on it, but like subgenres don't matter that fucking much. And if someone's a little wrong, especially if they're a young person, do not be that person that is like actually like, or if you're gonna do that, at least come from a place where you're trying to be educational and you want them to experience more stuff like that. Like, oh, you called Doom grind? They're not technically grind, they're a crust. But if you like them, here's some other bands like an Extreme Noise Terror or something like that. I mean, you could even fucking call Extreme Noise Terror grind. If you said that, I wouldn't be that mad. I'd be not mad at all.
No.
But it's more, for me and a lot of people, it's more just about the exploration of other things because we love it so much. I want to know what something is labeled correctly simply because if I like it, I want to be able to see other things tag that and whatever it may be and go, oh, I'm going to listen to this.
On the lovely algorithm that we all have access to, yes.
I don't...
What are you going to say, Tim?
Yeah. I don't want Crazy Frog coming up on my recommendations on Spotify if I'm looking up punk rock.
If I'm trying to find the fucking hamster dance, and I hear Crazy Frog, I'm gonna flip a shit.
Yeah, that ain't right.
I guess where I would leave myself on this question. Within my own, narcissistic schema that I have, I tend to care about these classifications on the level of like ethos and what a band is about. In terms of the particulars of what the band sounds like, I don't find much use in these micro genres at all.
Interesting.
For instance, like when people call Venom Venom is a black metal band, right? People will talk about, they're not really because they don't sound like blah, 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 and they don't have the Nordic screamo vibe that it's supposed to have. But I'm like, no, Venom is a black metal band. They're also a fucking rock and roll band, and like these to me, either of those terms or saying they're a heavy metal band even would convey to me like what Venom is about. Like what Venom sounds like is what Venom sounds like. I don't know. You got to fucking listen to it. Some of it just sounds like three guys falling down the fucking stairs with instruments in their hands. But regardless, like, again, for me, it happens on the level of like essence and ethos more so than musical styles. Because if you break it down to what someone's doing musically, like, you could have something that has blast beats in it or has like Nordic sounding guitar chords but isn't grind or black metal. Like,
Yeah.
you could take those discrete elements and put them wherever and have it end up sounding different.
I wanted to do something where there are riffs. It's like I wanted to take a riff and be like, here's the same riff. I'm going to play it slightly differently and show you that it applies to thrash metal, black metal, death metal, groove, various genres. It's the same fucking riff, the same 4, 5, 6 notes, and it's all the same thing. It's not that fucking different. Don't get people so that makes me more mad about this whole thing when people are like, black metal sucks. It's like, no. Black metal does not suck. You just don't you just personally haven't found anything that you can identify with black metal in it as of yet.
You haven't heard of Monomarth yet.
You haven't heard whoa. Hey, let's not talk about racist bands here, okay? This is a non-racist
I mentioned the racist pirate metal band.
Yeah,
Monomarth.
racist pirate metal. God damn it. See, now if we're talking about non-racist, non-pirate bands, Running Wild is probably one of my favorites.
The number one pirate band.
That's my favorite punk band.
Yeah. Now, have you heard this band called Ailstorm?
How about you guys fuck with Korplakani?
Korplakani is definitely my favorite street punk band from Sweden.
Best one by far.
I mean, it sounds like a street punk band.
It actually does. It sounds like the fucking Dropkick Murphys, but for Finnish folks.
So,
you heard it here first. Korplakani, street punk.
we're gonna to our last thing that I have I have one or two more things, but I think the last thing we should kind of go on, which is a controversy going on. I want to kind of wrap it up in the next 20 or so minutes.
Are we going to talk about Miley Cyrus?
We're going to talk about Miley Cyrus. So,
no.
This is my question. So, if you didn't know, Miley Cyrus, there's some artwork or something like that where it is completely ripped off from Celtic Frost's Set to Frost's The Emperor's Return. Like it's like traced. And people are mad. Someone's like being like, I demand reparations for being a punk, which we here at the Kings of Punk podcast, we denounce that person wholeheartedly and with extreme prejudice, not like in a mean way, but like, you're not a punk anymore.
But you guys should get reparations for being, I believe, Polish.
Yes.
We're going to build a water park in Greenpoint, Brooklyn with state funds because of the suffering that the Polish people
still
underwent.
go through.
Still go through to this day. There's horrible conditions at those light bulb screwing in factories, and it's a big problem.
Hey, I saw one of those Now This videos in England. A drunk British guy was, berating a poor Polish man on the subway. And thankfully all the good British people were like, "Hey, leave that man alone."
Yeah, leave my
leave my Polish brother
ancestor,
alone.
Someone long gone. But so Miley Cyrus has like kind of been in like, I listened to like some new stuff she did, and it's like rock stuff, and I think it has that like punk attitude that like maybe that's like the aesthetic they're trying to convey to some extent, even though it doesn't sound like that at all. It sounds like 80s fucking pop rock stuff. It's good. It's pretty good. It's not that bad for her, that kind of thing. But whenever we see this every now and again, when we have pop artists and bigger artists being like, yeah, we're punk, we're metal, we're rock, we're this and that. And my thing is, are artists like Miley Cyrus and stuff like that, are they like, and I may not be saying this correctly, but are they like punching under their weight when it comes to like doing stuff like that?
Are we
What?
talking about Billy Milano here? Or are we talking about Miley Cyrus?
Well, Billy Milano doesn't need to punch anyone. He just needs to fall.
No, I
on
mean, I'm
someone.
talking about how he is constantly being
Oh.
punched down on.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
punching down on.
We-
This is Billy Milano erasure.
We got to do a whole episode on MOD.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing a Billy Milano body shame.
We're
I
gonna
heard
do-
Miley Cyrus is doing a whole MOD cover album.
Of that song "Aren't You Hungry"? Ooh, man,
Yeah,
she's gonna
they're
be in
doing-
a lot of
she's
trouble after
doing
that one
Get a real
drops.
job.
I think Kyle Kalinske has an old tweet about that song.
Aren't you hungry? Yeah,
Aren't
he
you
is.
hungry?
Aren't you hungry? So
Anyway.
I think so to talk about this. I think whenever I see this stupid bullshit about like someone being punk or doing punk stuff or rock stuff, they are always like punching under. Like it's like, Miley, you're so like, as an artist and with the resources and things you have, you are much better than simply doing punk music. You know what I mean? Because two things.
Oh well, here's the thing.
It
though,
it
with
always
her.
won't be good.
Right, but also nothing she does is that's not her. Like she has a guy in a suit next to her.
That's
Yeah.
where I was
you know,
going with this. Yeah.
It's not
she
authentic.
has nothing to say about any of that shit.
Like, it's not going to be, I don't, like, the songs that I listen to today, and I don't even know if that's what that, like, Celtic Frosting was in regards to. I don't know what the fuck that is for. But it's like, this isn't punk music. Like, this is just rock music. This just has guitar. And not even that, this just has guitars in it.
Yeah.
But dude, didn't you hear that everything with guitars in it is like, like punk rock, heavy metal?
Yeah, I
We
mean,
should
that's like
close with
MGK.
the-
Dude, Imagine Dragons, like
That's
come
like
on.
have you listened to the MGK stuff?
Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah.
Did he play with
He's
Travis
like,
Barker?
He's
No.
like pop punk
No, I
now.
haven't listened to
Yeah,
it.
he's like pop punk now. It sucks.
No.
Oh Jesus.
And it's like, but it's got like shitty like trap beat stuff, like stuff in it.
So he's ripping off like A Day to Remember. Then.
no,
like
I
Falling
didn't
in
remember
Reverse.
that at all. What?
Falling in Reverse.
Yeah, I guess
That's a good
No,
band.
it's just like it's like what if we like had the shittiest pop punk stuff, and not shitty in like the like sloppy, but like it's just very uninspired, and then like we had like modern like shitty drum production on it instead of like real drums.
Does it sound like just like a bad Blink-182 kind of?
Oh, of course. I mean, Travis Barker's on it, so
Oh, so he is on.
of course it's on. Yeah, dude, that dude isn't everything. Please go away.
Yeah,
Travis
he should
Barker.
he's got enough. I think he should have enough in royalties by now to like never have to play drums again.
I mean, Celtic Frost is a weird example because that's not even a punk band. It's like a metal band.
They're a punk band.
Have you heard Hip Hop Jugend? That is straight up.
That is transgressive.
Don't
man.
derail me with their fucking like weird Rammstein Run DMC record that they made. When in terms of, well, I'll take this away from Molly and go broadly to people being upset about like punk aesthetics or style being appropriated by pop stars, right? On some level, I understand it because punk has, in many people's minds, never just been an aesthetic or a musical style, right? And the validity of that perspective we can't dissect right now. Let's as a premise accept that to be true. Let's assume there's like ideals and beliefs that undergird punk, and effectively what happens is that these pop stars appropriate the aesthetics without appropriating the ideals and the belief system, whatever. Let's take that to be true.
I can believe that.
Understand why someone would be upset about that, but I would urge them to consider where they direct their ire, because as Tim pointed out entirely correctly, like, who knows if Miley Cyrus has even seen that fucking drawing? There's a guy in a suit who hires a guy or who hires another guy who draws it. So in someone's mind, they'd be like, oh, I should be mad at that guy. Don't be mad at that guy. What that guy's doing is he's following the incentives of he's trying to get fucking paid. The guy who's paying him to do it is following like a fucking marketing strategy to maximize profit. It all fucking goes back to that, dude. Like, if you want to get mad at something, get fucking upset about that. Like, it's not. This is what's so frustrating about a current predicament is there aren't like there's terrible people. There are villains on some level. I don't think at the root of it, like it's not whatever you're mad about. It's probably not just like some person who's doing this bad thing. Like, we're at war with like a fucking algorithm of profit extraction and commodification. And it's hard because you can't put your hands on a fucking algorithm. Like, this logic of profit extraction. Sorry, I'm going to just use that term again. Fuck, yeah. Whatever. Like, that it's in the fucking air, dude. That's what's causing this to happen, is that if you have something that's authentic and appealing, like the Celtic Frost drawing with the titties on it or whatever, like that.
Hell yeah, titties.
I mean, that was a commodity when Celtic Frost did it. You know, they were trying to sell a fucking record. And if it worked, someone else will probably do it instead. Like this is not an issue of a pop star appropriating your culture. Like, this is the fucking like ecosystem you're operating in. So I think it would be more useful to maybe deal with it on that level. Now, in terms of like how I feel about punk aesthetics being appropriated or whatever, dude, I don't give a fuck. I usually think it's kind of great. I think it's funny. What are they taking from me by using that? Like, what the fuck is whatever pop star taking away from me by appropriating that? And I say that as someone who I would say I like ruined my life for punk rock, and those people have a lot more money than me and are more successful than me, but I don't know. On a fundamental level, I don't care. What I appreciated about another person who did this was Lady Gaga. She I could talk about her a lot, but what's fascinating about her is she drew from all different kind of subcultures. There was punky things happening. There's metal. Her and Halford are friends, actually. There's elements of the theater. What I like about her is she created this like pastiche of all these different subgenres and styles and cultural and subcultural threads that she weaved together. And people kind of gave her a pass on that because her interest in it seemed more authentic. She was like actually into metal or whatever. But that's on the level of her as a person and her taste. In terms of the way it comes across in the music, and in her aesthetic, it is as fake and as surface level as it could possibly be. I mean, it's all kind of turned into a joke in a way. It's very tongue-in-cheek. And that, to me, is really the ideal way to do this, because if it's always going to be kind of fake anyway, the fakest thing you can do is try to convince someone that it's real. Like, if it's just an aesthetic or a little borrowing of a chord progression, like, let that be what it is, and whatever meaning you want to ascribe to it should be your own and not a meaning that came from somewhere else that you're trying to appropriate. So if it's possible for this sort of appropriation of subculture aesthetics to be appealing to me, it would have to happen on that level. Like, if you actually do strip it of its original meaning, that to me is better, because there's something very obscene to me about trying to copy both the aesthetics and the fucking ethos of it. Like, if Miley Cyrus came out dressed as a punk and was also like giving speeches about DIY and her beliefs about how punk she was, my God, think about how much fucking worse that would be.
That would be so funny.
I would rather just steal the look. Yeah, if we're just laughing at things, that would be really funny, though. I don't know. I'd have to think about this more, because just this is another one of those things where on a visceral level, I'm like, I don't give a shit if pop stars fucking, dude, like, jack me off.
That is,
why
I
do
guess,
I care?
an opinion, though. So what are you going to say, Tim?
Well, I wanted to maybe going back onto the this culture of, like, you know, everything being commodified and, like, you know, for that whole thing. Do you think in a way to combat that, maybe, do you think that if everybody, like, kind of, I mean, again, it might sound like a broken record here going back to this, but if everybody just, you know, got off social media and the internet, it could possibly help that.
Absolutely. I was gonna say, you know what wouldn't, you know, stuff like that won't be an issue. It won't happen as much if people just stopped being fucking losers about it and sharing and talking about it. If you see something that you think sucks, you just go in your head, that sucks. and then move on. Like they're.
I mean, do you really think these marketing guys, when they tell these pop stars to do these things, that they don't understand that punk rockers will be pissed off about it and posting it on their fucking social media that they all fucking have?
So we got to combat them people, and like the issue is that they probably know that maybe we would also do that, but I don't know. Like, and who's to say that even an executive is doing that? Like, there's a possibility that Miley Cyrus is just like, maybe I do. Maybe she's not like, hey, let's copy this Celtic Frost thing. I don't think she does that.
That definitely didn't happen.
Tom G. Warrior is her dad, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, on the fucking
he wrote
Hannah Montana, he was like, oh, hey,
don't break my heart. Oh, my achy breaky heart.
That's his guitar solo.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
and
so like if you see Miley Cyrus being like, yeah, I like punk stuff, and you go, you're not punk. Hey man, she'd probably be like, well, hey, that's your fucking opinion.
She'd probably say thanks.
Well, there's a get away from me, you smell, or something like that.
Well, I mean, she probably smells just as bad as the person talking to her.
There's a picture of
when
her.
she had that short hair. It's like, damn, she looks like she hasn't taken a bath in like 3 weeks. It's like, God, that was a terrible look for her.
So there's a picture of her performing something on Howard Stern, and the guitar player is wearing a Nausea shirt from New York City.
Whoa.
And, like, they shared that. They're like, wow, we've been getting a lot of people liking her stuff, so that's cool. And she's wearing a Plasmatics shirt. So that's cool. Like,
Probably
at the end of the day, like,
yeah.
if some fucking kid who's, like, this is what is, the side effects of this is actually cool. Because some kid may go, maybe not a kid, but, like, somebody maybe, like, 18, 19, 20 or something like that. Someone who's still, able to be influenced by other people very easily. Which was definitely me, and a lot of people at that age, might see that and go, in good faith, go, oh, what the heck's that? Plasmatics. Let me check that out. Oh shit, Wendy O. Williams. That's her, right? Yeah. And it's like, oh, this is cool. Whoa, there's a whole level
That's
of
a good
shit
point.
that I
didn't
don't
even think
know.
of that. Yeah.
Wow, that's fucking awesome, and that could get him in the punk. And I think that a thing to go back to the subgenre thing is, and everything being so splintered, that person isn't going to be like, I'm a punk now. Like maybe we would. But it might be part of their identity where they go, I will go to I don't fucking know, like this hardcore band show because I've heard of them now and I really like them. And that is, I'm not saying that's the best that can happen, but like if that happens more, then that's good. If we stop being so negative and thriving on negativity all the fucking time, that would do so much for like music and stuff like that, and just our health in general.
That's also, and this isn't to take away from how good that is, but the good thing you just described and the bad things we've been describing, none of this is really new. Like the internet has accelerated it, sure, as have other factors, but I mean, even most of the people we know, or a lot of them, got into punk through like, I don't know, like Sum 41 and shit. I started with like Green Day, and that's like one step removed. People in the 70s got into punk because the fucking tabloids were talking about Sid Vicious. Like, that's like typically how it always starts, and it doesn't. That's not a bad thing. And also, we're talking about commodification, but ultimately on some level, that Celtic Frost drawing was a commodity when they made it, and that doesn't mean it's bad by any means, but it means that maybe you need to put it in perspective a little bit before you freak out about it getting ripped off. I mean, certainly the artist who made it originally, because it is, I've seen it, it is literally traced from the
Emperor's Return
record. Like, if I was that artist and I wasn't compensated in some way, I would be pissed off. But again, that's happening on the level of people like litigating over commodities. Like, I don't think you need to ascribe more meaning to it than that. And yeah, it's always been like this. I mean, we've touched it before on the fake punk phenomenon. You had the infamous rebranding of punk as when the term new wave was created by record labels to describe like the Talking Heads and fucking Blondie, like bands that were kind of punk but normal people could listen to it. They came up with this new term new wave to distance it from, all the British people gobbing on each other and cutting themselves up with razor blades or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's always been like this, and it's always been had an element of imitating something that didn't really exist in the first place. So I would say, if, like I said earlier, if anybody wants to get upset about fucking Miley's guitar player having a nausea T-shirt,
I don't think people are upset about that. I think that's actually
it's just an example.
But
Like,
yeah,
if you want to get mad about any of this stuff, you have bigger things to be mad about than this one pop singer. Like, you need to. And this is a point we're making. This applies with anything. Like, if you're tempted to be mad at some public figure or something for something that morally bothers you, think about why they're doing that. And if your explanation is, oh, it's just because they're a bad, stupid person, that could be true. But, like, what is the incentive structure? Like, what is in society compelling them to do that and allowing them to do that? That's what I think is more productive to direct your negative feelings towards, because that incentive structure is what's really letting it happen and is probably causing it to happen.
Yeah, and it's just at the end of the day, who gives a shit? Like,
Not
it's
me.
no one. We shouldn't give a shit, and I know probably people listening to us are like, I don't give a shit either. But it's not just that. It's not. We're not just talking about Miley Cyrus.
Yeah.
We're not talking about talking about really anything. Like, and it goes back to the defining things. You know what? If fucking MGK wants to be like, I'm bringing back pop punk, it's like.
I saw a
cool.
bizarre example of this. There was a viral tweet on Twitter where it was some woman in her early 20s who was, I forget what the exact tweet said, but she was effectively trying to gatekeep Fleetwood Mac fandom. She was like, oh, all these motherfuckers just heard about Fleetwood Mac. Like, I've been listening to it since blah, blah, blah. As if that's a niche little obscure thing to be into. Because there has been sort of this weird aesthetic Fleetwood Mac revival where people in their 20s, early 20s, are getting super into Fleetwood Mac, seemingly women especially. So now they're so engulfed in this virtual fantasy perception of Fleetwood Mac as something that only cool witches like them listen to, that they, and that's their understanding of it, they have completely lost sight of the fact that that is one of the biggest selling musical groups of all fucking time.
Yeah.
But
Right?
that is immaterial to her. What's real to her and her experience is that this is a cool thing that me and my cool friends are into. And it's just incredible the loss of perspective that can happen when you are completely engulfed in just irreality, virtual fucking spectacle would be the word for it, maybe. Especially again on the internet, like it is literally engineered by algorithms to encapsulate you into this little bubble of the shit you're into and people who are similar to you and what you want to hear, and it creates this echo chamber, and that narcissism we all have just grows ever stronger as it keeps being fed, to the point where you lose touch with reality so much that you think there is a Fleetwood Mac fandom worth gatekeeping. I mean, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
That
sucks.
That this series of algorithms that exist on this counterinsurgency fucking tool that the CIA or whoever made, like, that it can strip us away from actual reality to such an extent. But it does it. It's not just the internet. If it wasn't the internet, it'd be something else, because it is just emboldening and feeding on our worst, most narcissistic, self-absorbed fucking instincts. The disturbing and new thing is that they have taken the feeding of those instincts and that narcissism and literally written it into a fucking, like, into code. It's been literally encoded. That's some shit.
I don't think that's how. See, I feel like they are with the algorithm stuff. It's more just like we're trying to make engagement as likely as possible. I think it's I think it's just a side effect.
That's
of
what's
it.
disturbing, is that the biggest effect and the most disturbing effect is not. I don't know that they were trying to do that. They were.
I think the thing we know. I think the thing that we all know, we've known for a long time, is that negativity. We react to negativity more.
Yeah, but that's
we
the
do
thing.
positivity.
I agree with you. I don't think it was by design.
I just think
to
that,
do that.
I think no, it wasn't by design. It's just that's just a side effect. Just the fact that someone who's mad at something will comment, will retweet, will do this.
They willingly
whatever.
did that and created that in the process of following the real incentive structure, which is to make fucking money and protect the money they have. And because we can't see outside of that, and they couldn't either, the people who made all these apps, et cetera, whatever, the fucking engineers of this whole fucking thing. Like, and despite these anti-human side effects of that doesn't even enter into the moral calculus of whether these algorithms should be written and implemented, because it can't.
No.
Because the structure doesn't allow for it.
And I was gonna say it's frustrating to see a person like that be mad that people are into something that they are very into, because that just means more people are into that thing, and it's kind of the opposite of. It's like this is the opposite effect of social media that we're seeing, and that person should let's like permanently log off, because like
it's anti-social media.
You should see people are into Fleetwood Mac and be like, yes, now all me and my I have more witch friends that I will find easier, and we can all dance while doing seances.
I want everyone to like the
bullshit.
stuff I like. I love showing people
like
what
I
I'm
want
into.
fucking people. I want my coworker to be like, hell yeah, Poison ID is like fucking awesome. This band's awesome.
I
wanna
want
listen to
my
'em.
coworker to have heard of NoFX's "It's My Job to Keep Punk Rock Elite."
I've been forcing everyone around me to listen to grime music, and they're all gonna like it.
And guess what? It's already worked. I like grime
It's
music.
working, yeah.
So fucking Christ, like, it's working.
When will it end?
I don't know, man. Maybe it'll be like, I don't know. It's just I guess to wrap up this episode.
Yeah.
We got a couple things we can talk about after to announce, but just who cares about subgenres for the most part? Don't be a fucking dick about it. Be nice to people, especially younger people, if they're trying to learn something. Be as inclusive as you fucking possibly can, because that gets more people who will get more people if they want to have a good time, because people have friends. And I don't know, don't get mad at people for fucking liking shit that you think is maybe inauthentic. Who gives a shit? If it's inauthentic, if their interest is inauthentic, then it will wane and they will go away. So who cares?
I can't take us down another rabbit hole now.
We're not.
But,
No.
But
I'm talking strictly in like a Miley Cyrus being like, I'm rock.
I just
who
think
cares?
that
Like,
notion of authenticity, we can pick that part another time, because that's a bunch of fucking nonsense.
Is it authentic? I don't know. I hope it is.
It's
I think that
fucking
she could.
bullshit.
I think she is, to an extent. But who fucking knows? Maybe everything's a fucking lie. But
I
at
can
the
tell
end
you
of the
the
day,
concept of authenticity on some level is probably a lie, at least on the level we're discussing here.
yeah. So all I know is I like what I fucking like, and if you like what I like, I want to hang out and talk about it because it's cool.
Let's link up and build.
Yeah. Hit me up on LinkedIn.
I like you.
You're my friend.
You like porno?
So, I guess this is the end of the episode. So, a couple things. I have a label. It is called Faith in Failure Productions. We just recently helped put out our most recent release, which is a split LP between the band Sulfuric Cautery and Human Effluence. If you like super fast gore grind stuff, it's probably one of the better splits out. Definitely releases out this year. It's the first vinyl release that we have done, that I have done, and I'm very excited to have it out. Obviously, this is like the worst fucking time of the year to have it because A, it's Christmas time, and B, no one has money because of COVID, and C, I also can't go to shows and shit to sell it. So if you want that or any HR stuff or any of the other releases that we have, go to faithinfailure.storenv.com. Put a link in the description, and pick something up. It'd be a good holiday gift for a friend of yours. And then what else? We have the official Instagram account.
Yes, Cop Pod Official. That's KOPPODOFFICIAL. I remembered how to spell official, which is terrific. I feel like I've accomplished something today. Go follow us on there. We'll have, goodies, updates, photos, all that fun stuff. Eventually we'll have little audio clips of particularly good bits that we may have. I don't really have anything to plug. More demo coming soon. Leaking Head demo coming from all of us soon. The one release I was going to shout out earlier because I mentioned a few of my other ones. If you are a fan of hardcore, particularly like New York hardcore, but also like Poison Idea, stuff that's tough but is still punk, has a sort of darker, sort of off the beaten path edge. My band Death Camp has 2 different releases. There's a Teenage Nightmare 7-inch from 2013, and then in 2015 we did the Live at the Bug Jar album, which is available on Spotify. If you want, what's up?
Is that on Spotify?
It is.
Oh
yeah.
shit!
And if you want to get a sort of look into the window of some of what punk in Rochester was like, I think that Teenage Nightmare 7-inch. I revisited it recently, and I was like, damn, like this really captures the vibe of the scene back then. I actually think I'm proud of that to that end. Teenage Nightmare, because it's the darker side of what the scene was like in Rochester back then, which at the time most people were not prepared to confront, but us being the people that we of course had to, and I'm glad that we captured it. So that's about all I had to say today. I think this is a pretty good episode. Looking forward to continue doing this. One more thing. Thank you to all the people who have been giving us feedback, both positive and negative, about these episodes. It means a shitload to me that you would listen to this, and let alone contact me to tell me what you think of it. And the more of that, the better. So that's much appreciated. Thank you. Love you guys.
And just one more thing I'd like to add here. Another band I'm in that we didn't mention earlier in the episode is called Fentanyl Tapwater. Play drums in it. It's sludge. It's like sludge, and it's like pretty. There's like some good hardcore D-beat influence going on in there too. We just finished our recording. We're doing a split with this band Fed Ash from Syracuse. It'll be out on Tyler's label hopefully sometime next year. So, just wanted to add that too.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And to kind of go off what Jake said, we do appreciate anyone that listens. Share, tell your friends. That's about it. Sorry this episode is kind of long, but I think we had a really good time kind of talking about some things that I think in the future we're going to kind of expand on more.
Absolutely, yeah.
In more concrete episodes. So keep an eye out for that. Tell us, really hit up the Instagram. Tell us what you like and what you don't like. Even
request for guests too.
Request for guests.
Let us know.
Request for topics even.
Yep.
Yeah.
Send us something that maybe we can rate. Send us your bands. We can rate your bands too. Yeah. I'm down to do whatever with this podcast, but I really want to keep it talking about like punk and underground music, really, because that's what I'm passionate about, and I've been passionate about for the last decade plus. So, all right. Signing off. Thanks a lot.
All right. Go off, Kings.
See ya.